What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers, where we give an early look at next week's UFC card. This week, it's going to be UFC Vegas 38, and we have a very interesting card to talk about coming off of a phenomenal card last night. We're going to recap that and all of that. Before we do so, if you guys can leave a like on the video, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Just recently hit that 10K mark, so thank you all for subscribing to Pub Sports Radio, and thank you all for the support. So I'm here with everybody's favorite uncle, Uncle Weezy. Weezy, how'd you do last night, and did you enjoy the card?
Dude, I was just one drunk Keith Peterson away from cashing every single bet last night. If he would have stopped that Marais Dvalishvili fight in the first, I would have been 6 for 6. But it was a great night. It was a great night of fights. I mean, even if you didn't have money on those fights, you know, they were just spectacular. Almost all of them from top to bottom were just fantastic. It was really only Blades and that was getting booed out there, and then Shevchenko, I guess, for a little bit. But yeah, big night for me betting. Going to try to keep it rolling here, and we got stats for you guys for 13 fights for next week. And like I said last week, man, doesn't matter if we win or lose. We got to keep up the work. We got to show up the very next day and get ready for next week. Hey, great week though last week, so let's keep it going, man.
100%. Yeah, that was a very good card last night. I don't know if I'm biased because I was there, but I say that was card of the year. It was between that night, last night, or 261 for me. But last night was just crazy. It was like every fight was exciting outside of, like you mentioned, the Blades fight and then Shevchenko. I mean, I enjoyed watching Shevchenko, but a lot of the fans did not like the greatness of Shevchenko. She was boring, but no, that's just greatness. It was too easy, and Shevchenko got it done. But yeah, man, phenomenal night last night. Plus 2.7 units tracked, closed out a parlay. 2 weeks ago, I had Armin Saruki and Blanchfield, closed it up with Thiago Santos. I had my big play of the night was going to be on Medic Turner. Fight doesn't go to decision. 2.5 units on that, minus 190. Also, the fight does not start round 3, half a unit, plus 100. So I had 3 units invested, and the fight doesn't go in that fight. So that was big. I was very excited when that did hit because that did seal a winning night there. I had a Daukaus winning inside the distance, and he won inside the distance like 5 times. I don't know why. Mark Smith did not stop the fight, but he ended up stopping it, and then Daukaus ended up winning inside the distance. I had Morales Pierce. Fight doesn't go to decision, plus 115, half a unit on that. And then my losses were Blades wins by KO, half a unit, plus 185. Did not really attempt to finish there, kind of just grinded out. Rosenstruck fought really smart, can't blame him for that, but he did get booed. Everybody thought it was a boring fight, and it was, but you know, props to him for at least fighting smart. And then this one hurts, Uncle Weezy. This one hurts so bad, man. Marlon Moraes wins in round 1, plus 950, quarter unit. It was there. I mean, it was there. I do not know how Marab survived that. I just don't know how. I do not know how Moraes did not finish that fight. But if that would have hit, it would have been a monster night. But still was a really good night. Hit my Hail Mary, and I did not only hit my Hail Mary that I gave out on the Patreon, but I did my own Hail Mary, a 9-legger at the casino, plus 1,400. Daukaus, Shevchenko, Volkanovski, Santos, Semmelsberger, Marab, Andrade, Blades, and Hooker. And I also did a 12-legger, and unfortunately, one of those legs hit. That would have been crazy. And then my Hail Mary that I gave out on the Patreon was Volkanovski wins by decision, plus 120. Parlayed with Semmelsberger wins inside the distance, minus 165. Turner Medic, fight doesn't go, minus 205. Shevchenko wins inside the distance, minus 250. And then Tyler Santos, minus 455. I can't tell you how much I was sweating in that Volkanovski fight, Weezy. If Volkanovski won and he won by decision, it would have been a huge, huge night, and it was. So yeah, no complaints from me. But you know, coming off of that night, we have this card, UFC Vegas 38. And, you know, maybe not the most name value, but I think a lot of these fights are going to deliver. I think it's going to be some violence as well. And I can't wait to break it down with you. A shout out to everybody hanging out in the chat. So as you guys know, as you guys are here, we did move it up to 6:15 p.m. Eastern time, so we did not interfere with a Sunday night football game. So thank you guys showing up on a Sunday. I know a lot is going on. Tristan in the chat. We got Sonder in the chat. Muhammad, Jesse. We have Grand Melon. Shout out to Melon. Me and him had some bets. I forget what it was. Like if Rosenstruck got a flying arm triangle in the 3rd round, I'd have to send Melon my car or something like that. So that didn't happen. So shout out to Melon. Thank you all for hanging out. DPS in the chat as well. So I guess we'll start it up here. Again, if you guys can hit the like, that'd be much appreciated as always. And let's start it with what could be fight of the night. Just kidding. Shanna Young going against Stephanie Egger. We have Shanna Young, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 65-inch reach, going against Stephanie Egger. She is 33 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach. Is Shanna Young. She is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. A knockout win over Jessica Borga, a submission win over Anastasia Bruce, a submission loss to Sarah Alpar, a decision win after that, and then a decision loss to Macy Chiasson. As far as Stephanie Egger, she did make her UFC debut against one Tracy Cortez, and she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. And the thing that it's tough for me, Weezy, because Stephanie Egger, when I watch tape on her, I'm very impressed, but who is she fighting, right? She's fighting soccer moms, but she's doing a lot of good things. She's has a judo background, solid takedowns, solid trips, and when she gets on top, she's dangerous, and she's a finisher. It's just I don't know what level she's at. She made her UFC debut against Cortez, and Cortez kind of dominated her. So I guess my problem is I don't really know what level Egger's at. She's 33 years old, and as far as Shanna Young goes, I just don't think she's that good. Getting submitted by Sarah Alpar, getting taken down multiple times by Sarah Alpar, getting your back taken by Sarah Alpar, it's just not a good look. So I'm extremely tempted on Stephanie Egger. It's just I don't know how good she actually is. She hasn't really fought anybody outside of Cortez, and she kind of got dominated in that fight. So Weezy, any takes on this one? What do you got for us?
Yeah, the early take for me is going to be Egger here. If we look at the tail of the tape, we got a 3-inch reach advantage for Egger. Everything else is pretty close. Egger a little bit older. The advantage or the experience advantage goes to Shanna Young here with 3 more fights and about almost 100 more minutes of cage time. Shanna Young, 2 UFC level fights. Egger's got 1. What I see here out of Egger, though, is an 80% finish rate. 2 subs, 2 knockouts, only 1 win by decision, and she's never been finished in her 2 losses, while the Shanimal is a 57% finish rate, so 4 out of 7 wins coming inside the distance, 3 by sub, 1 by knockout, and she has been submitted in 1 out of her 3 pro losses. If we look at the striking statistics, not much to show here on the Egger side because it was basically Stephanie Egger's debut against Cortez took place in control time positions for 80% of the fight. So that's what Egger is going to try to do. She's got that judo background. She's going to try to use trips, reaps, sweeps, try to get it to the ground, get on top, and then work her top game. And Shanna Young not only lost to Sarah Alpar, but got submitted by her. So right there, you just kind of look and you say, all right, wow, that's a gaping path to victory right there. If Sarah Alpar, who got absolutely dominated from pillar to post by Erin Blanchfield, was unable to, not only out wrestle Sarah Alpar, but stay safe on the ground, I do see a path to victory here for Egger. And then if we look at Shanna Young's takedown defense, 5 of 11 takedowns her opponents were. So it's 54.55% takedown defense. That's not good. That's an average of 3.27 takedowns per 15 minutes against. And she's been controlled for 37.31% of her UFC career. Now for Egger, it's worse because Egger was fighting against Cortez. So she only got 1 out of 6 takedowns. She got 14% control time, but Cortez got 66% control time. So, this is obviously going to be a much better opportunity here for Egger. Shanna's just not nearly as tough or nearly as good of a wrestler as Tracy Cortez is. So I see a great path to victory here for Egger to use that grappling, that judo, to get the fight to the ground, use top control to win it. But we don't have a lot of stats to sink our teeth into here. I'm not touching any time props on this one. It's kind of like a curtain jerker that doesn't have nearly as much panache as the Pierce Morales fight did last week. But yeah, I like Egger here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I like Egger as well. And shout out to Sun Tzu saying Weezy for mayor of Chicago. Not only that, I heard Weezy was running for president as well. So shout to Weezy. There you go.
We got to get some people on board here. I could be a great politician. I could be as corrupt, as lazy, as dumb as anybody out there. So why not Weezy for mayor? Why not Weezy for president?
Okay, 100%. Okay, so we'll take a look at the odds here, and yeah, this just makes me even more intrigued. We see that Stephanie Egger opened up plus 130. She is now plus 112. And then Shayna Young opened up minus 150, and then she's currently minus 130. So Stephanie Egger is the dog. And, you take a look at the fight goes to decision, minus 215. Fight doesn't go to decision, plus 165. I'm really tempted on that money line shot on Egger. It's just there's still some question marks that I don't have answered. Still don't know how really good she is. She's not all that tested, but seeing Shayna Young getting dominated by Sarah Alpar, getting dominated on the map by Macy Chiasson, I don't know. I feel like it could be a solid dog spot here. What do you think of the?
Just let me interrupt for just a second. I think that Egger has an Olympic judo background. Isn't that right?
I think, yeah, that, and then I think she has a judo black belt as well.
Yeah, she's high level, So somebody who out wrestled, Alpar out wrestled Shayna Young. That could, Egger at plus money might be a decent look here at plus 116 because we haven't seen enough out of Shayna Young for her to be a favorite here. Sorry to interrupt though. I'm done.
Oh, you're good. And interrupt anytime, Weezy. But yeah, I think we're both on the Egger side there. So we will move on to the next fight, and we have, man, this is a tough fight. Alejandro Perez going against Johnny Eduardo. We have Perez, who is 32 years old, 5'6", with a 67-inch reach. Johnny Eduardo is 43 years old, 5'7", 71-inch reach. You take a look at their last 5 fights. Alejandro Perez is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A decision win, knockout win, a decision win, a knockout loss, and then a knockout loss to Song Yadong, and then that Cody Stamann decision loss as well, where he did stuff 8 takedowns against Cody Stamann, but I don't think he's going to have to worry about takedowns here against Johnny Eduardo, who is 2-3 in his last 5 losses or last 5 fights. Eddie Wineland knockout, so they both have fought Eddie Wineland. A submission loss to Aljamain Sterling, a knockout win, knockout loss, and then a submission loss. So I guess something that really stuck out to me is we have not seen these guys in a very, very long time. Alejandro Perez, his last fight was 2 years and 2 months ago, and his last win was 3 years ago against Eddie Wineland, whereas Johnny Eduardo, his last fight was 3 years and 3 months ago, and his last win was 4 years and 10 months ago. And, the age is a serious concern, especially considering it's at Bantamweight. I feel like this has potential to be a very boring fight, right? Like, both guys are very low volume. I can't trust like a 43-year-old in Eduardo. No way. But on the flip side, I'm not that impressed with Perez as well. I feel like Perez is going to kind of, fight to the style that Eduardo is going to like, and that's going to be a fight where they're probably just going to stand and, look at each other a lot, maybe throw some strikes here and there, but I just don't really see much going on. It's a tough fight, Weezy. The age is what sticks out to me the most, but not a fight I'm overly looking forward to seeing, to be honest.
Yeah, this is not one of the best ones on the card for sure. And, and low key, this is a really good card. There's a lot of bangers on this fight. We'll get through it, but this is definitely not one of them. And then just as you mentioned, right, those major red flags that some of these fights try to give the gamblers, where it's like, hey, one guy's 43 years old. He hasn't been in a cage in over 3 years. Remember Nick Diaz yesterday? And then we got Alejandro Perez, similar situation, 32 years old. But that's getting old for a bantamweight, and he hasn't been in the cage in over 2 years. So this is a big stay away from me. But let's just go through the stats here. Obviously, Perez is going to have be much younger, but it's Eduardo who's an inch taller and who has the reach advantage here. Eduardo, like most people who have been in mixed martial arts for 25 years, has the experience advantage here. But Alejandro Perez, a 32-year-old guy with a 16-year career. Obviously, Perez has been fighting since he was a very young man. Perez, 11 UFC fights. Eduardo, 7. Perez, 67% finish rate. Johnny Eduardo, 75% finish rate. And then both of these guys getting finished quite a bit when they lose. So we got a 63% finish rate against for Alejandro Perez, 5 out of 8 losses. And then an 83% finish rate against for Johnny Eduardo, which would be 10 out of 12 losses. So if we add that up, we've got 15 out of 20 of their combined losses have been inside the distance. So at a 75% implied probability on the loss side, we could be looking at something, fight doesn't go to decision. if it's better than minus 200, that we're probably getting a pretty good edge there. Because both of these guys have some finishing in their own right. And who knows what a 43-year-old man in Eduardo has left in the tank after we haven't seen him in forever. So if we look at the striking accuracy for both of these guys, not very good. Striking defense, actually very good for both. But here's the thing. Johnny Eduardo landing a knockdown on over 1% of his significant strikes landed, and Alejandro Perez being knocked down on just about 1.5% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. So there could be the potential for Johnny Eduardo, who does have a pure Muay Thai background, as far as I know. I think you can tell because I think he has the words Muay Thai tattooed across his stomach. So that's something that your Uncle Weezy, see, I picked those things up, Brady. A lot of other people are too stupid to pick that shit up, but I'm on point. So I know that Johnny Eduardo is good at Muay Thai because he has it tattooed on his stomach. One thing that Alejandro Perez is not good at is getting fights to the ground, which is where you want Eduardo. Eduardo, not a willing wrestler, only 4 takedown attempts in 7 UFC fights, and he's gotten none of them, while Perez is only 4 of 20 on his takedown attempts for a 20% takedown percentage. Neither one of these guys controlling a lot. 6% control time for Perez, 1% control time for Eduardo, and 17% control time against for Eduardo, and only 8.39 for Perez. So this does look like it's going to be a stand-up war. Neither one, I mean, even though Perez tries about 2 takedown attempts per fight, he's only getting them at a 20% clip. So we can't really expect him to out-wrestle Eduardo here, although Eduardo doesn't have great takedown defense. He's only successfully defended 10 out of 16 against for a 62.5% takedown defense. So yeah, we could maybe see Perez go to the grappling. If this stays on the feet, you're going to probably see Eduardo have just a little more success, but we can't really predict that either, because at 43, who knows what he has left in the tank. We have seen good power out of him, but if we look at the striking metrics, we see that Perez is landing 3.52, only absorbing 2.94 for a positive significant strike differential of 0.58. While Eduardo is actually being outlanded. He only lands 2.89 and absorbs 3.34. Eduardo with the slightly better strength of schedule. Alejandro Perez with the slightly better wins. And both of these guys are losing to capable opponents, but Eduardo really has lost to the better opponents here. So it's kind of back and forth on this one. I'm not exactly sure after looking at the stats how I feel about it. And then when you also look at the fact that, both of these guys are coming off of long layoffs, don't exactly know what's left in the tank, it's screaming stay away from me. But if we get a good number on that fight doesn't go to decision prop, it might be something I dip my toe in the water.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at the odds here, and we do see that Alejandro Perez is a pretty big favorite, a lot bigger than I'd really like to see personally. Open up minus 200, he is now minus 230, and then Johnny Eduardo open up plus 170, is currently plus 195. So, maybe it's the age thing. I feel like this fight's going to be very close. I mean, but with that said, he's 43 years old, right? So I can't go with the 43-year-old. I'll go with the younger guy, like, being that old and then just taking a 3-year layoff, like that is a huge red flag. I will not have any money on this fight. I hate that line of Perez. I'm not all that impressed with them. But yeah, the fight doesn't go to decision. Line is, where is it? Oh, there it is. So fight goes to decision 65, and then fight doesn't go to decision is plus 120. Thoughts?
Yeah, plus 125 ain't bad. That's plus money for guys that, when you add up all of their career losses, 75% have come inside the distance. So if you use that as your handicapper for how you cap that line, you would be getting a line that says minus 300. Think about that. So yeah, there could be, that. So, but these guys are old though, so who knows what they've got left in the tank if they're still hitting hard. Who knows what they got left in the tank? I don't know. But just on the analytics there, even if you do the winning percentages inside the distance for these guys, it would give you a much better line than plus 125, which is, plus money instead of minus 300. That's not bad at all. I'm going to be looking at that, but this fight otherwise screams stay away.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, Eduardo, I mean, he did hurt Nathaniel Wood pretty bad. I thought he could have finished him there if he really, tried to. But again, that was in 2018, right? So I think he's pretty dangerous, but again, the age and the gas tank. So yeah, it's a tough fight to call. But yeah, plus money on the fight doesn't go does intrigue me slightly, but more often than not, I probably just won't have money on this fight at all. It's just a big red flag fight for me. So we will move on to the next one. We have Douglas Silva de Andrade going against Gaetano Perello. We have Andrade, who is 36 years old, 5'7", 68-inch reach. Perello, 29 years old, 5'7", 68-inch reach. So we have a 36-year-old featherweight in Andrade, who is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, but losing to very good competition. Right, lost to Rob Font by submission. He beat Marlon Vera by decision, not lost to Piotr Jan by knockout, beat Henan Barao by decision, and then lost to Lerone Murphy by a very close decision there. As far as Perello, he did make his UFC debut against Ricky Simone, and he did lose by submission there, got absolutely dominated in that fight. But yeah, prior to that, you can see just how dangerous this guy is. And, his fights do tend to end inside the distance. He is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. It's a tough fight to call in a way because, I do like what I see from Perello in terms of him being very dangerous, anywhere the fight goes, especially on the feet. But, Silva de Andrade has fought the much better competition, and it's really not even close. But, Andrade is now 36 years old. He is a featherweight, and that's not the best thing in the world. But it seems like a spot where Andrade should win here. But the danger of Perello is scaring me away slightly. But, first lean is Andrade for me. Where are you leaning?
Well, first of all, we got to say Belgium, stand up, man. Gaetano Perello representing Belgium here. This is not a country we see a lot of in the UFC, so this is huge. And, hey, let's look at this, dude. We can just throw out that Perello debut against Ricky Simone. He's not on Ricky Simone's level. He took that fight on short notice as in addition to that, and he got dominated. 77% control time for Ricky Simone in that fight. But if we look behind that fight, and when Perello was fighting on the regional scene in Europe, we see that he finished 14 out of his 15 wins inside the distance, 73% by knockout, 20% by sub. So that's 3 submissions and 11 knockouts out of 15 wins. And he's been finished 83% of the time, 5 of 6 times inside the distance. So Perello's a really good striker who's got horrible takedown defense. But guess what? Douglas Silva de Andrade only has 3.75% control time thus far in the UFC, and he's only attempted 10 takedowns in 8 fights. He's gotten 5 of them, but he on those 5 takedowns, he's really only gotten about it looks like less than 5 minutes of control time on those takedowns. So this is not a guy that's going to take you down and lay on top of you and win fights that way. So this could be a really interesting stand-up war between 2 guys that got a lot of power, a lot of knockouts on their resume. As we see that Douglas Silva de Andrade, only 4% of his 26 wins coming by submission, but 73 coming by way of knockout, man. That's big time, dude. That's 19 career knockout wins for Douglas Silva de Andrade and 11 for Gaetano Perello. Dude, somebody's probably getting knocked out in this fight. This is another one where I would be very interested in the fight doesn't go, because if we look here and we add up the 10 losses, once again, we've got 2 + 5, 7. 70% of their losses have been finishes. So that's another one where if we're getting anything better than, minus 200, we're looking pretty good there. Douglas Silva de Andrade does have a decent amount of power for a bantamweight. He hits hard. He's got a negative 0.5 striking differential, 38% striking accuracy, just under 60% striking defense, and he's never been knocked down in 8 UFC fights. So that's really, and that's against, guys like Rob Font and Peter Yan. So, there's obviously the biggest difference between these 2 gentlemen is the level of competition, Brady. You got Douglas Silva de Andrade is fighting Peter Yan, Henan Barao, Marlon Vera, and Rob Font, while Perello is fighting people named Enzo Maria Iezzi, Percy Herrera, Josiro Boye, and Carlos Acevedo. So big time step up in competition here for Perello. He had that step up against Simone. Obviously, a horrible stylistic matchup for Perello, but this one's better for Perello. He's a striker. Andrade is a striker. And it should be a really exciting fight with somebody winding up getting knocked out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I did call Andrade a featherweight earlier because he did fight at featherweight against Brow and Murphy, and now he's actually moving back down to bantamweight where he used to fight. So that's interesting, especially at 36 years old, moving up a weight class and then moving back down for this fight here. And yeah, like you mentioned, like Andrade is going to give Perello the fight he wants, right? Like Andrade isn't going to take him down like Ricky Simon did. He's going to stand and bang and try to knock him out. And at that point, it's going to give Perello past the victory because, he's going to be the younger fighter. He's very dangerous himself. And, it's a tough fight to call. But what I am more interested in, just like you, is going to be the fight doesn't go to decision line. We'll take a look at the odds, and we do have Andrade minus 200 opened up. He's currently minus 235, and then Perello opened up plus 170. He is now currently plus 200. I think it might be like a level of competition thing. But I wouldn't completely count out Perello. Like, he's very dangerous. Like, I'm impressed with what I see. And like I said, Andrade isn't going to go out there and just take him down nonstop like a Ricky Simon. They don't have the fight doesn't go to decision line out yet, but it's something I'm going to keep my eye out for. It looks like that is the only fight that they do not have the fight doesn't go to decision out yet for as well. But I'm kind of leaning the fight doesn't go. Any thoughts on the line? Any other thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, the fight doesn't go is something I'm going to be really looking for sure. And the line is, it's a little wide. I mean, just, because we don't know how good Gaetano Perello is going to actually look this time if he's allowed to fight his fight, which I think he's going to be able to. So I wouldn't jump on the line either way, but boy, that I want to see where that fight doesn't go winds up, because that's going to be really intriguing. Both these guys, great finish rates, both these guys getting finished, and both these guys going to be fighting the fight where they're most dangerous. So yeah, that's going to be a good one, dude.
Yeah, this is going to be like one of the best fights on the card, probably, right? They're just going to stand in the middle and bang until one man falls. It's going to be fun.
Yep. Good fight, dude. This fight, I'm telling you, man, this card is low key, got a ton of bangers on it. Bethe Correia. I mean, how we don't deserve this after last week, Brady, but the UFC is doing us really good right now.
Yeah, we thought it couldn't get any better than 266, but now we got Bethe Correia on the card, coming out of retirement, I believe, as well. I thought she retired, now she's back. My goodness. Yeah. But we'll move on to another banger, man. 2 bangers in a row, and I'm really looking forward to this one. We have Devonte Smith going against Jamie Mullarkey. Both of these guys are all-out finishers. Weezy will tell you more about the finish stats coming soon, but expect violence in this fight. Devonte Smith, he is 20 years old, 5'9", with a 76-inch reach. Jamie Mullarkey, 27 years old, 6 foot, with a 74-inch reach. So Devonte Smith is going to be 1 year older. He's going to be at a height disadvantage, but he's going to have a slight reach advantage there. As far as Devonte Smith in his last few fights, I had a knockout win over Joe Lowry, a knockout win over Juliana Rosa, a knockout win over Dong Hung Ma, a knockout loss to Kama Worthy, and then a knockout win over Justin James. As you can see, a lot of finishes there. On the flip side, Jamie Mullarkey, he came into the UFC, made his UFC debut against Brad Riddell, had a decision loss there, a very fun fight. That was an absolute war. And then had a controversial decision loss to Farah Ziam, a very close fight there that I personally scored for Mullarkey, but it was a very close fight regardless. And then it just recently knocked out Kama Worthy in like the first minute of the fight. So he has 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So yeah, Weezy, I'm expecting violence here. Curious to hear your take on that, and curious to hear your take on this fight in general. What do you got?
Yeah, we got a lot of violence on the card for this one, dude. This is promising that. Yeah, Mullarkey much bigger in terms of height, but we got Smitty with the reach advantage. Smitty got 4 less fights than Mullarkey, about half the cage time. So you got to give Mullarkey the experience advantage, having been in the game about 2 years longer. Smith 5 UFC fights, Mullarkey 3. Average fight time for Devonte Smith in the UFC 4.08 minutes. And 6.12 minutes as a pro. The guy is an absolute finisher. His hands are so fast. They're so accurate. He hits so hard. He's got ridiculous power. And then we look Devonte Smith, a 100% finish rate for and against. All 13 of his fights have finished inside the distance. And then we look at Mullarkey, 11 of 13 wins coming inside the distance, 2 of 4 losses coming. So, in the 6 losses, we got 4 of them coming inside the distance. And in the wins, out of 24, 22 have been inside the distance for these guys. Another fight that's just screaming violence. If these bookies don't juice these over-unders, but they're going to get fucking reamed again this week, man, because they got killed last week. I'm sure they did. So if we look at, we definitely see that we were going to be leaning under in here. Why are we leaning under? Let's look at Devonte Smith's striking numbers thus far in the UFC. He's landing 5.64 significant strikes a minute and absorbing less than half of that at 2.65. 55% striking accuracy. He's landing a knockdown on 2.6% of his significant strikes landed. That's 3 knockdowns in 115 significant strikes landed. He's averaging 2.21 knockdowns per 15 minutes. You see those kind of numbers, a 59% striking defense. He has been knocked down once in the 54 significant strikes that he's absorbed. But contrasting that to Mullarkey's stats, we see a 2.02 significant strikes landed and 4.65 absorbed for Mullarkey. That's problems because he's not landing enough there, and he's getting, he's absorbing more than 2 strikes for every one that he lands, and that's a really bad recipe against somebody that hits as hard and is as accurate as Devonte Smith. Plus, add into that a 34% striking accuracy for Mullarkey and only a 43% striking defense. Mullarkey's showing some power in his own right, though, with a 1.61 knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. He, in his own right, is averaging 0.49 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Mullarkey, though, has been a very willing wrestler thus far. He spent the entire Riddell and Zayam fights trying to get the fight to the ground, and unsuccessfully, really, in both of them. He was 8 of 26 on his takedown attempts, getting them at a 30% clip. He's averaging 3.9 takedowns per 15 minutes and getting 33.75% control time. While Devonte Smith has only attempted 1 takedown, he got it. He's out-controlling his opponents 15% to 1%. And most importantly, Devonte Smith has only faced 3 takedown attempts in 5 fights, but he's defended all of them successfully. So this fight really is going to come down, in my opinion, to whether Devonte Smith can stop the takedowns of Jamie Mullarkey. Because if this thing stays on the feet, Mullarkey's hands aren't close to Devonte Smith's. Devonte Smith is special with his hands. He's one of those guys that's just too accurate, too fast, and he's precise. When he hits you, you go down, and all you got to do is look at his record. He's only got 1 win by submission in his career. The other 10 are all knockouts, and they're coming early too. It's because he's accurate and fast. So Mullarkey is going to need to get this fight to the ground, but he's only getting takedowns at a 30% clip. And in his 30 minutes, he's gotten about 10 minutes of control time, 10 minutes on 8 takedowns successfully, but 26 takedown attempts. I don't think that that's enough of a minute-winning recipe for Mullarkey to get past Smith here. I'm leaning Smith. However, let's look at the strength of schedule stats real quick here. Mullarkey facing the better competition with the ratio. Devonte Smith facing the more experienced competition, but they're both facing people that are relatively unexperienced in terms of the UFC. The wins slightly better for Mullarkey. The losses better for Mullarkey. So I would give a better strength of schedule to Jamie Mullarkey, but not by much. Neither one of these guys has had really tough opponents thus far. Very interesting fight. I think it's going to come down to whether Mullarkey can get this fight to the ground or not. What are you thinking, man?
Yeah, my lean is going to be Smith for sure. The only problem I have is we have not really seen Smith defend a lot of takedowns, or as much as I'd like to see. Like you mentioned, 3 takedowns defended. I'd like to see a little bit more of a sample of that. I'll have to look maybe outside the UFC, look at some tape outside of the UFC, but I've not really seen anybody, consistently try to take him down like I think Mullarkey is going to. And like you said, like if Mullarkey does not take down Devonte Smith, he's going to be in a world of trouble. Only a 43% striking defense for Jamie Mullarkey. This guy is very, very, very hittable. Lands 2.02 significant strikes, absorbing a massive 4.65. So I think on the feet, like it's not even close. I think Mullarkey is going to be in some serious trouble on the feet. But he has shown some power himself, and we have seen Devonte Smith knocked out as a minus 1,000 favorite before, and also Mullarkey is going to bring, that wrestling, that grappling that, Smith has not seen yet in the UFC. So as far as a money line bet, I probably won't get there because I do have some question marks on, how good is Devonte Smith's takedown defense actually. But in terms of a pick, I am going to go Smith. But the bet I'm going to be looking forward to the most, Weezy, is going to be that fight doesn't go to decision. You mentioned the finish rates of both guys. Both guys are finishers. Both guys have been finished as well. We take a look at the fight goes to decision. It's sitting at plus 150. Fight doesn't go to decision. It's sitting at minus 190. So, kind of reminds me of last week, right? Like Medic Turner. I think they had it sitting around, opened up like minus 180. Fight doesn't go to decision, and we were all over that. I mean, this is doesn't seem like as good of a spot as the Medic Turner, but this seems like a pretty good spot to me. Minus 190 there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I still can't believe that line didn't move last week. How did we should have put our entire account on that, I mean, that was a sure thing. And then it came through beautifully. Even Turner got some top time and let him back up, so finish that fight in the first round. That was easy. That was an easy ticket to cash. This one, I'm feeling a little bit weird about this because sometimes we see these fights, Brady, where the fight doesn't go or the fight goes is kind of baked into the win condition for the fighters. Because, like, for instance, if Devonte Smith wins this fight, he's gonna knock out Mullarkey. Let's face it, he's got 100% finish rate. But if Mullarkey wins this fight, he's going to be grapple fucking and just wasting time and trying to build up 12 minutes of control time on Devante and taking him down over and over and over again. And that could get the fight to go to decision. So it's like, I kind of feel like if you think the fight's going to go to decision, bet the fight goes to decision because that's better odds than you're getting on Mullarkey. And then if you think the fight's going to end inside the distance, bet Devonte Smith because he's minus 160 and the fight doesn't go as minus 190. You see? So when we got that win condition kind of baked into the results of the fight, we can play the lines that way and get a little bit of an edge on the books. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I didn't even mention the line yet. Devonte Smith minus 160 and then Jamie Mullarkey plus 140. Yeah, I mean, could Jamie Mullarkey finish Devonte Smith? I mean, potentially. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think if there is a finish, it's going to be more so on that Devonte Smith side, right?
Yeah, God, this is such a great fight, dude. I mean, I'm a huge Devonte Smith fan, but this guy Mullarkey hasn't been in a boring fight yet, man. This is a great one, dude.
Yeah, but you don't want to be in an exciting fight with Smith. You don't want to be in that kind of fight. You don't want to do that.
No, because it'll be exciting for the fans while you're looking up at the lights going, oh, that hurt, So, I mean, yeah, there are certain ways where you're like, I don't care if the fans are entertained, and this is going to be one of those from Mullarkey where he's like, they can boo me for 15 minutes as long as I'm, grapple fucking this guy and riding it out, then I'll be fine, So, yeah, that's going to be, like I say, it's kind of baked into the weird win condition. You're getting better odds on the fight doesn't go than you are on Mullarkey, and you're getting better odds on Devonte Smith than you are on the fight doesn't go. So I think that's the way you play it,
Yep, for sure. What's up, Mills? Mills went 6-1 yesterday. Me and Weezy did good. Glad you could bounce back, Mills. I had a good night. Seems like a lot of people had a good night last night. I think the bookies got rinsed last night.
Yeah, dude, if you're a contrarian, you got rinsed.
Asphalt did not see me on TV. Oh, that sucks. I tried to get on there. I tried to get in front of the camera and wave, but guess I didn't make it. I guess I didn't make the cut. So's in the chat as well. All right, we're going to move on to the next fight. Yeah, so two bangers back to back there. Silva fight, Smith fight, I think is going to be a banger. And I'm actually looking forward to this next fight quite a bit as well. I think this could be considered a banger also. Antonina Shevchenko going against Casey O'Neill, a very hyped prospect. Antonina Shevchenko, she is 36 years old, 5'8", 67-inch reach. Casey O'Neill, 23 years old, 5'6", 69-inch reach. We'll take a look at their last few fights. So Shevchenko, I believe she made her UFC debut against Roxanne Modafferi. She lost by split decision. She beat Lucy Pudilova by submission, lost to Caitlin Chukagian by decision. She got knocked out by Ariana Lipsky and then submitted by Andrea Lee. As far as Casey O'Neill, she made her UFC debut against Shanna Dobson. TKO victory there, and then submitted Laura Procopio. So, Weezy, this is a very interesting fight for me. I would love to fade Antonina Shevchenko. I love everything I see out of Casey O'Neill. Her wrestling is great. Her ground game is phenomenal. I mean, she went out there and submitted a black belt in Laura Procopio in her last fight, and she's looked nothing but dominant so far in her career. And Antonina Shevchenko, like what's bad about her, right? Her takedown defense, her ground game, and it's just not good. I went back and watched the Caitlin Chukagian fight today, and she made Caitlin Chukagian look like Khabib. I mean, Caitlin Chukagian was having so much success, and then same thing with Andrea Lee submitting her there. Ariana Lipsky, she was able to kind of use her ground game there and knock her out, which is weird. But getting taken down 6 times by Modafferi, I'm just not impressed with their ground game. And then you're feeding her against a very solid grappler, very solid wrestler, very young up and comer in Casey O'Neill here. It just feels like a smash bar, right, for Casey O'Neill. But one thing that does not sit well with me is just how hittable Casey O'Neill is. She is so hittable. I'm sure we're going to get into the numbers, but I just like cringe watching her fights at times because she has no striking defense whatsoever. But she fights smart. She's going to get this fight down to the ground, and when she does, I do think she gets it done here. But just seeing how hittable she is, seeing how green she is still, kind of gives me a little bit of pause. But man, I think it's a solid spot for O'Neill. How you feeling about this one, Weezy?
I agree. I mean, 13 years younger, 2-inch reach advantage, that's really important right there, just in the measurables. And obviously, Antonina being 13 years older, we know that she's got the experience advantage here. But, Antonina's only got 12 pro fights. Casey's got 7, so it's not like Casey's at a huge experience disadvantage here. Casey's fought just a little under a third of her career at the UFC level, while for Antonina Shevchenko, it's a little over 50%. The finish rate's 44% for Shevchenko, 58% for Casey O'Neill, and Antonina's been finishing 1 of her 3 losses by submission. But yeah, you mentioned it, man. This is going to be Casey O'Neill trying to get this fight to the ground, and it's going to be Antonina Shevchenko trying to keep it standing. And both of these ladies have huge advantages in either spot. So if this fight stays standing, it's going to be Shevchenko all day. If it gets to the ground, it's going to be Casey O'Neill all day. Now, Casey O'Neill has a 61% striking accuracy. She's landing 5.56 significant strikes a minute, only absorbing 2.64. For Antonina, she's also landing more than she absorbs. 3.87 landed, 2.77 absorbed. So a plus 1.1 striking differential for Antonina, but almost a plus 3 for Casey O'Neill. 61% accurate is O'Neill, 56% accurate is Shevchenko. But here's the rub. Casey O'Neill has sub 40% striking defense. So 38.71. That's going to be a problem against a Muay Thai practitioner in Shevchenko. So once again, it just comes down to who's going to get the takedown. Is O'Neill going to get takedowns, or is Shevchenko going to stop takedowns? Well, Casey O'Neill thus far is 5 of 8 on her takedown attempts in only 2 fights, 62.5%. She's averaging 3.47 takedowns per 15 minutes and controlling her opponents at a 61% rate, only giving up 14% control time. While Shevchenko is controlling her opponents 24% of the time and being controlled 33% of the time. Shevchenko's takedown defense, 50%, Brady. She has been taken down 13 times out of 26 attempts, and she's being taken down 2.46 times for 15 minutes. And she's had 1.33 subs attempted on her per 15 minutes. We've seen what it looked like in the Chukagian, Modafferi, and Lee fights. She's very deficient on the ground. That doesn't change overnight, and Casey O'Neill has been dominant there. You got to believe this is going to be Casey O'Neill all day unless Antonina has fixed that defensive wrestling. And I don't know how long it's been since the Lee fight, but it's not long enough to just plug a lifelong hole in your wrestling.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It feels like such a good Casey O'Neill spot, but we got to kind of remember, like, look at who she's fighting. Really, like Laura Procopio, who I'm high on, but she was recently cut, and I don't agree with her being cut, but she got cut regardless by the UFC. Shanna Dobson, she retired from MMA. And as far as Shevchenko, I mean, she's losing these fights, but decent competition, right? Andrea Lee, Caitlin Chukagian, Roxanne Modafferi, she's fighting the much better competition. And like you mentioned, the striking defense is horrible. 38% striking defense. And, I said it last week with Medic. I thought that Medic would be exposed soon. I didn't know if it would be that fight against Turner, but I thought he'd get exposed soon. It so happened to be that fight. I think Casey O'Neill will get exposed soon. You can't have that terrible of a striking defense. When she faces somebody that's going to be able to stuff a takedown, she's going to be in trouble. But is Antonina Shevchenko that fighter who's going to stuff a takedown? I lean towards no, but we'll take a look at the line here. We do see that Casey O'Neill is a pretty big favorite. I do probably expect money to come in on her, as there is a lot of hype on her. She opened up actually at minus 300, and she's currently minus 205, and Shevchenko opened up plus 250. She's currently plus 175. We take a look at the fight goes to decision, minus 130, and the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 110. So the bookies are kind of thinking that, hey, this fight might end inside the distance, minus 110. We don't usually see that for a women's MMA fight. So my thoughts on the line, I think it's maybe a little bit off a tad. I think Casey O'Neill, I think it's a great fight for her. I just have some slight concerns with her striking defense, with the level of competition. But, Shevchenko is 36 years old. She's not going to be making improvements, from her Lee fight, from her Caitlin Chukagan fight. There's going to be, limited to no improvements more than likely. And Casey O'Neill's young. She's up and coming. She's a beast. So yeah, I like Casey O'Neill. I just don't know if I'll get to a bet at that minus 205 price tag. I just don't think she's, proven enough to be warranted of that price tag. But as far as picking a winner here, I will side with O'Neill. As far as a finish goes, I mean, maybe O'Neill inside the distance, but we'll have to see what those odds are there. Any thoughts on the line, minus 205, and then any thoughts on the fight goes or fight doesn't go, Weezy?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo your sentiments here. I think it's a little bit wide, and there should be some regression back to the mean because Casey O'Neill's been so dominant in these two performances, and she's looked great. There really isn't a whole lot of reason to believe that Shevchenko stops these takedown attempts from O'Neill, but if she does, we're going to see O'Neill get exposed. So do you want to be on that minus 210 right about now? It seems a little bit wide. I'm not touching the time props here, but I can't even, plus 175 isn't intriguing enough for me for Shevchenko to bet her as an underdog because, you could see 30 seconds in, she gets taken down. You're going to walk away from the TV saying, what the hell was I thinking? So yeah, it feels like a stay away from me, man.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pass. Yeah, I went back and watched the Procopio fight, and Procopio was hitting her hard, like very hard. And Procopio is a grappler, right? So, I think once she fights somebody with a good takedown defense, she could be in trouble if she does not, fix up those striking defense issues. But against Shevchenko, I think she will pass the test. Shout out to MMA Locker Room. Mills said he got O'Neill minus 190. Saw a line there. He beat some line movement. Nick Rodriguez is on a Casey O'Neill parlay. Chris saying had to visit the uncle. Better late than never. Brady and Weezy always grinding. A fellow DJs. What's up, Chris? How you doing? I saw that you did well last night. Shout out to you. All right. So we will move on. If you guys can all hit the like button, let's get those likes up. Also subscribe to Pub Sports Radio if you have not already. Going live every week, every Sunday, 6:15 p.m. Eastern Time. We're breaking down UFC Vegas 38. Which is in my opinion, I think Weezy's opinion, I think it's going to be a very underrated card. Not the most name value, but I think a lot of these fights are going to deliver and hopefully deliver with some violence as well. So speaking of delivering, we have Bethe Correia. I believe she's coming out of retirement. I could have swore she retired, but no, she's back. I literally could have swore she took her gloves off and set them in the middle of the cage, but maybe I'm misspeaking about it, but I think she did. And going against Karol Rosa, who is, she's young. She's 26 years old. She's going to be 12 years younger. She's 26 years old, 5'5", 67-inch reach. Bethe Correia, 38 years old, 5'5", with a 64-inch reach. So Rosa's going to be younger by 12 years and also have a 3-inch reach advantage as far as the last few fights. We do have Karol Rosa. She made her UFC debut against Laura Procopio. It was a split decision, a very, back and forth fight. Karol Rosa was ultimately able to win that decision, and then a win over Vanessa Mello, and then also a win over Jocelyn Edwards. As far as Bethe Correia, she is 1-3 in a draw in her last 3 fights. Had a draw over Marion Renault, had a knockout loss against Holly Holm, a submission loss to Irene Aldana, a decision win over CR Eubanks, and then a decision loss to Payne Kansas. So what sticks out to me right away is going to be the huge discrepancy in the level of competition. Bethe Correia is obviously fighting the much better competition. It's not even close, but when we're talking skill for skill, when we're talking the skill sets and all that, I think Karol Rosa, has her beat here and has her beat by, a significant margin. So curious to hear your thoughts on this one, Weezy. What do you got for us?
How dare you slander Bethe Correia by saying that Karol Rosa's got the edge here? Get the hell out of here. Oh, you know what? No, you're right. I mean, come on, man. 38 against 26. That's a big age difference there. It's something you just simply can't ignore. And then when you look at the pro fights, each one of these ladies has 17 pro fights. So you'd think that Correia would have a huge experience advantage. And she does have an experience advantage, having fought way more than half of her career at the UFC level. So definitely, you know, a strength of schedule and a slight experience advantage here, not just in the minutes and the years in the game, but also just, you know, fighting the better competition at the UFC level. We got a 43% finish rate for Rosa, an 18% finish rate for Bethe Correia, and 60% of Correia's 5 losses have been finished inside the distance, and 67% of Rosa's losses have come inside the distance. She was recently submitted by Melissa Gatto outside the UFC. If we look at the striking numbers, we see some really impressive numbers thus far from Rosa in just 3 fights. 7.73 significant strikes landed per minute is just crazy, and 5.51 absorbed. So yeah, 52.5% striking accuracy, a 48% striking defense, and 0.3% of Karol Rosa's strikes are resulting in a knockdown, which is really good for that division. You don't see a lot of power in any of these women's divisions. So Rosa showing you know, a knockdown, 2 of them, as a matter of fact, just one of them is still really good. Bethe Correia landing 4.39, absorbing 4.56. She has been knocked down. It looks like twice in her 625 significant strikes that she's absorbed. So, you know, the striking advantage, the volume advantage here absolutely goes to Rosa. Rosa's getting 6 of 10 takedowns, which is really good, but Bethe Correia's takedown defense has been excellent at 84.21%. She's successfully defended 16 out of 19 takedowns against her. So keeping the fight standing is how Bethe Correia keeps fights close. And I think she'll be able to keep this one standing. Rosa does have 40% control time for and only 1% control time against. So she has been successful getting takedowns, getting the fight to the ground, and then, you know, winning minutes and accumulating top control time there. But Bethe Correia not yielding a lot of that, and not yielding a lot of that against some fighters that do get takedowns, that do, you know, thrive in that type of a game plan. Specifically, Sijara Eubanks won that fight by, you know, stopping a lot of takedowns and keeping it standing. So, you know, I can't bet Correia here. You know, any fighter that's already retired, you know, you get the impression that they're coming back for a check. It's not like she's going to make a run at the title. She's already 38 years old. But I would imagine that the line is kind of juiced for Rosa already, because nobody's really that high on a 38-year-old Bethe Correia at this point. So it seems like it's going to be a stay away. Are you seeing anything in this that you like?
I mean, maybe a potential parlay piece. I'll get to the line in a second. One thing I did want to point out, though, is Karol Rosa's volume is phenomenal. I think that is their best asset. You know, solid cardio as well. And just something to point out that I think is pretty relevant to this fight in terms of Bethe Correia. She has been outlanded in her last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights. She's been outlanded in her last 8 fights. The last time she outlanded somebody was in 2014. So to think she's going to outland Karol Rosa here in a fight that is primarily going to stay standing, I don't really see it hitting the mat. It's just hard not to favor the much younger Karol Rosa here. Like I said, I love the volume. I don't really like, you know, how hittable she looked in that Procopio fight, but I think the volume is going to be too much. I just don't see, you know, Bethe Correia keeping up with that volume that she's going to dish out. It's going to be a ton of it, and we do see that Karol Rosa is a pretty decent sized favorite, opening up minus 275, and she is currently minus 350. And then as far as Bethe Correia goes, she opened up plus 235, and she is currently plus 185. So that does make Karol Rosa the second biggest favorite on the entire card. As far as the fight goes to decision, is minus 270. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 190. I'm kind of thinking Karol Rosa probably by decision. You leaning any other way? You think she can finish Bethe Correia?
Well, Bethe Correia has been finishing 3 out of her 5 losses, but we don't have any finish wins yet for Rosa at the UFC level. So, yeah, dude, I mean, trying to play a prop on this fight. It's just that we've already seen a lot of great violent spots. I mean, and I could see people maybe parlaying the fight doesn't go because this is women's, and a lot of people just think that we're not going to see a lot of violence in the women's fights. So, but I'm staying away from this one. I think Rosa wins this one easily, but that line is just too wide to bet. I don't really think I'm going to make her a parlay piece this week. How about you?
Yeah, I've been trying to stay away from the parlay piece for the most part, and on this card in particular, I don't think I'll have much, if any, parlays this week, just by the looks of it. But yeah, anything else in the fight, or do you think Rose does get it done?
Yeah, I think Rosa gets it done, man. I mean, the Bethe Correia disrespect I was joking about, obviously. So, yeah, man, I think Rosa gets it done pretty easily. But I'd be laughing my ass off if Bethe won. I'd be like, bring her back, give her a title run, But I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I guess she confirmed that this will be indeed her last fight.
Yeah.
So shout out to Bethe Correia. And we will move on to a very intriguing fight. I feel like this is one of those fights where, we're going to have one side have a very strong opinion, and then the other side's going to have a very strong opinion as well. I feel like it's going to be one of those fights. But yeah, very intriguing fight. Joe Solecki going against Jared Gordon. We have Joe Solecki, 28 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach. Jared Gordon, 33 years old, 5'9", with a 68-inch reach. As far as their last few fights, Joe Solecki made his UFC debut against Matt Wyman, did win by decision there, submitted Austin Hubbard, very impressive win there, and then just recently it took Jim Miller to a decision and won that. As far as Jared Gordon, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a knockout loss to Joaquim Silva, a decision win over Dan Moret, a knockout loss to Charles Oliveira, a decision win over Chris Fishgold, and Danny Chavez. So as you can see, Jared Gordon is fighting the better competition, but Joe Solecki is young. He's up and coming. Lots of hype on this guy, and for a very good reason. I think he's a very good fighter. But yeah, Jared Gordon is definitely no slouch. So I think it's a very intriguing matchup. I can't wait to get into the stats for this one, Weezy.
Yeah, me neither, man, because this is really interesting. Both of these guys thrive doing the exact same thing, and that's taking their opponents down and just wearing on them. Now, Gordon's the kind of guy that's going to ground and pound you into submission, while Solecki's going to take you down and he's going to work to try to get your back and then choke you out. Solecki has a 64% win rate by submission, only 9% by knockout, while we see Gordon 35% by knockout, 12% by submission. But the important thing is that both these guys are shooting takedowns, getting them, and then accumulating a ton of control time, Brady. So check this out. Joe Solecki in 4 UFC fights has 12 takedown attempts. He's gotten 6 of them for 50%. He's averaging 2.39 takedowns per 15 minutes and 65% control time, dude. Massive. Controlling almost 2/3 of the fight. Now, Gordon doing the exact same thing. 8 fights, 41 takedown attempts. He's getting them at close to a 50% clip, 39.02%. He gets 2.81%, 2.81 takedowns per 15 minutes, and is averaging 48.51% control time. And both of these guys are giving up less than 6% control time. So they're both controlling their opponents at least an 8-to-1 ratio, while for Solecki, it's about 12-to-1 ratio. So we have to figure out which one of these guys is more likely to get the fight to the ground first, because this is not one of those fights where we have 2 wrestlers and it's going to wind up being a boxing match on the feet, because Gordon doesn't want that because he's incredibly chinny. Gordon's been knocked out several times, and Solecki doesn't want that because that's just not what he is. I mean, look at Solecki. He's only averaging 2.68 significant strikes a minute, but you can see how well he's controlling his opponents because he's absorbing less than 1 significant strike per minute, 0.85, 58.44% striking defense. And Gordon, it's really the same thing. He lands 5.54, only absorbs 3.22. So he's at his best when he's controlling his opponents, taking them down. He's definitely throwing way more volume than Solecki is, but Solecki's a lot more grappling focused when he gets the fight to the ground, while Jared Gordon's going to be the one trying to get on top and beat you down with the ground and pound. But it just looks to me like Joe Solecki's going to have the much better, more refined grappling pedigree here, and that he's probably better suited to win the exchanges in this fight that will determine who winds up on top on the ground. So I am really leaning Solecki here. I like what Gordon does, but I'm worried a little bit that he's absorbed a lot of damage at the age of 33, 21 fights. He's been knocked out in 100% of his 4 losses. So he is known as somebody that's chinny. Solecki probably not the best guy to test that. However, if this fight gets to the ground, Solecki's going to have a lot of success there.
Yeah, I'm actually leaning away, and I'm on the Jared Gordon side, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the line as well. But yeah, the reason why I do like Gordon is because you take a look throughout his career, and I've never seen him really get out grappled by anybody, and we got to remember that Jared Gordon is a really good grappler himself. He's a brown belt in BJJ. Solecki is a black belt, but Jared Gordon very experienced. And I guess what stuck out to me right away is going to be his takedown defense sitting at 55%. But whenever people take him down, he's able to get back up right away. I think, Dan Moret was able to take him down twice, but, Gordon was still able to have about 10 minutes of control time himself in that fight. And when we talk about the striking and the chin of Jared Gordon, that's definitely something we worry about, right? But in this fight against Joe Solecki, I just don't think he really poses a threat to go out here and knock out Jared Gordon on the feet. I do favor Jared Gordon quite a bit. He's fought the better level of competition. And yeah, the takedown defense is a concern if Joe Solecki can get on top, but Jared Gordon's no fish out of water on the mat by any means. So I'm more on the Gordon side. And we do take a look at the odds here, and we do see that Gordon is a dog. And he has opened up +1, or he actually opened up -105. He's now +116. And then Joe Solecki opened up -115, and it is -136 currently. I think this is a close fight. I think it's a really good test for Joe Solecki. I mean, Joe Solecki, he's fought Matt Wyman, doesn't belong in the UFC. Has not been cut yet, but maybe he's been cut. Austin Hubbard, who I'm not all that high on personally, he does tend to lose to grapplers, and that's what Joe Solecki is. And then Jim Miller, which is a very solid win, but Jim Miller, getting up there in age, whereas Jared Gordon, he's still 33 years old. And yeah, I kind of like the Jared Gordon side here. So in terms of the fight goes to decision and the fight doesn't go to decision, we do see that the fight goes to decision is -175 and the fight doesn't go as +135. Yeah, I'm strongly leaning on the Gordon side here. Gordon +126 on FanDuel, +120 on DraftKings. I just think he's the more well-rounded fighter. But with all that said, Joe Solecki has been looking phenomenal. Again, this is a big test for him. If he can pass this test, I'll be very impressed. And I do want to see more of his striking. I want to see if he can take down Gordon and control him, because nobody's been able to do that yet. And he's fought some killers, man. He's fought, guys like Charles Oliveira, who, Charles Oliveira did knock him out, but he's fought guys like Diego Ferreira. Diego Ferreira did knock him out. I just don't think that Joe Solecki poses that same knockout threat. So I'll take Gordon. Any other final thoughts on the fight? Do you have any leans to the fight goes or the fight doesn't go?
Yeah, the time props I'm not interested in this fight, because I think the stylistic matchup is the one that I'm going to try to play. And I'm on the Solecki side here. Just a little bit better strength of schedule overall, actually, for Solecki, which is surprising. I think maybe the Jim Miller, massive amount of fights that Jim Miller has had in the UFC has kind of thrown off the total fights ratio here. Well, you know what? Matt Wyman had a pretty long career in the UFC, and he was good, but then he took 5 years off and came back, and he was already old. So, yeah, the only guy to finish Austin Hubbard, that's a pretty good feather in the cap. Yep. A good win against Jim Miller, but you're right. I mean, Jared Gordon has fought the better competition. Now, he's lost to those guys, but I mean, guys like Ferreira and obviously Charlie Olives, I mean, come on. So, yeah, this is going to come down to, who is the better grappler. And we're going to find that out, because there's no way this is going to be a striking match, dude. That's going to be one thing that I will predict right here. So, but I do think that Solecki's the better grappler. I think he's dominant there. And I think he's going to be a step ahead of Gordon, the younger man, the better reach. So yeah, I'm going with Solecki.
Yeah, I do agree that Solecki is the better pure grappler. The guy is insane on the mat. But yeah, as far as well-roundedness, I do favor Gordon there. But yeah, it's a close fight. We'll have to see where that line goes as the week goes on. I do have about 100 of you in here on a Sunday. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you all can smash that like button, let's get those likes up. Offender saying that Wyman was cut days after the Jordan Levitt slam. That's probably for the best. Jordan Levitt, I think that was like George.
Brutal, dude.
That was so bad.
That was so brutal.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, shout out to Matt Wyman. Yeah, that was bad. Okay, anyway, we'll move on to the next fight here. So we have Mike Breeden coming in, I believe, on short notice. Hernandez was supposed to fight somebody else. I don't know the name off the top of my head, but we have Breeden coming in, making his UFC debut. Breeden was on the Contender Series, did lose that Contender Series fight, but he is getting his debut here against Alexander Hernandez, who is 28 years old, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach. Breeden, the older guy, making his debut, 5'10", 32 years old, 70-inch reach. And we'll take a look at their last few fights. Alexander Hernandez, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, had that knockout loss against Donald Cerrone, decision win against Francisco Trinaldo, knockout loss against Drew Dober, knockout win against Chris Grutzmacher, and that decision loss against Thiago Moises. As far as Mike Breeden, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win, knockout loss, decision loss on the Contender Series to Anthony Romero, a knockout win, and then a decision win against Nick Compton, and then is going to be making his UFC debut here against Alexander Hernandez. And, I like this Breeden guy. He's training at a Glory MMA and Fitness. He's going to have James Krause in his corner. I think his striking is pretty solid. I like his combinations. I like how he comes forward the whole fight, but he is very hittable. He does look, I just don't think he's on the level of an Alexander Hernandez. He's going to, very close fights with some of these guys. He's getting, hit hard by some of these very low-level guys. And Alexander Hernandez, say what you want about him, but, he's fighting the much better competition. So for me, I do like Breeden, but it's one of those cases where I don't think he's ready yet. And then on top of that, seeing him at 32 years old, I really don't like that. So I think Alexander Hernandez is going to be my pick, just getting out there early. But did anything else stick out to you, Weezy, on this one?
Yeah, see, I don't know anything about Mike Breeden. I didn't get to watch any tape on him. We know that Alexander Hernandez has been fighting. I mean, Christ, his debut was against Beneil Dariush. So this guy's been in the deep end of the pool ever since he's come into the UFC. And he's still only 28 years old. He's still got half of his UFC experience, or half of his pro experience has been at the UFC level. So you got to just believe that, he's going to be a little bit better here, but I need to find out more about Breeden, and the fact that he is at Glory MMA is, he should have a good game plan here. But Hernandez was training for Leonardo Santos in this one, so I got to believe, when Santos drops out and they're like, you're going to be fighting Mike Breeden, you're like, okay, all right, that's bring on Mike Breeden, because, Leonardo Santos, even though he's getting up there in age, is still very dangerous. So I need to find out more about Breeden. I have no data on Breeden. The data that I have on Hernandez, not particularly impressive. Okay, 35% striking accuracy. That's not great. Showing a little bit of power at about a half knockdown per 15 minutes. He's absorbing more strikes than he lands, but he does show pretty good striking defense, up around 59%. He's being knocked down about 0.23 times per 15 minutes. His wrestling's been decent at 39% takedown percentage, 1.6 takedowns per 15 minutes, out-controlling his opponents at about a 2-to-1 ratio, but not showing great takedown defense either, 62.5%. This should be Hernandez, especially since, Breeden's taking it on pretty short notice, but I need to find out more about Breeden, so I'm going to let you tell us what you think is going on here.
Yeah, I think Hernandez is probably going to knock him out. I mean, knocking out Chris Grutzmacher, say what you want about him. I know I crapped on the guy, but he's tough. Chris Grutzmacher is as tough as they come, right? I think that was his first knockout loss as well. Other than that, he was losing by submission for the most part. So that's impressive to me. And then knocking out Beneil Dariush, like that's very impressive. Breeden, I just think he's, he's 32 years old, but he just looks so unexperienced to me. It just doesn't look ready for the UFC. Coming in on short notice as well, hittable. He's been knocked out before. I think Hernandez is going to put him out here. We do see that Hernandez is a very big favorite, and he's going to be the biggest favorite on the entire card. He opened up as a minus 300 favorite. He's currently minus 400. Mike Breeden opened up plus 250. He's currently plus 300. I don't know if I'd lay the minus 400 on Hernandez here. Like I said, I think Breeden's a solid fighter. I just don't think he potentially is not on this level, whatsoever. Hernandez has fought the much better competition. I'm not super high on Hernandez, but this seems like a fight where he should run right through Breeden, in my opinion. We have the fight goes to decision plus 135. The fight doesn't go minus 175. If anything, for me, I might take a look at Hernandez by knockout. Hernandez inside the distance. I think there's a very good chance that he does finish Breeden here. Any thoughts on the line? Any thoughts on the fight goes or fight doesn't go?
Right now, it just looks like a stay away from me. That's just so juicy, minus 300, minus 400. Yeah, no, it's a stay away from me. I need to find out more about Breeden because there could be something there. And there's actually an arbitrage opportunity. You could get Alex Hernandez at minus 300 on BetMGM and get plus 315 on 5 dimes on Mike Breeden right now. The trader in me wants to hit that bid, but I'm not going to do it right now. We'll move on to the next fight because this one kind of just looks kind of wide. I'm not seeing any opportunity there, and I need to do more tape study on Breeden.
Yep, for sure. Probably a fight that Hernandez does get it done, but James Krause has been on a roll for sure. But yeah, I think this is a good fight for Hernandez. Moving on, so this was a fight that I could have swore we broke this down like 2 or 3 times, Weezy, and we have not seen it for a while here. We have Aspen Ladd going against Macy Chiasson, a fight that was supposed to happen a while ago. I'm not sure what happened. Oh, I think Macy Chiasson pulled out with some type of injury, if I'm not mistaken, but we're finally getting it here. Ladd versus Chiasson. Ladd, 26 years old, 5'6", with a 66-inch reach, going against Chiasson, 30 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach. What you notice is Chiasson's going to be much, much bigger with a 5-inch height advantage and a 6-inch reach advantage as well. We'll take a look at their last few fights. Aspen Ladd 4-1 in their last 5 fights. A knockout win over Lena Landsberg, a knockout win over Tanya Evinger, a decision win over Ciara Eubanks, a knockout loss to GDR, and then a knockout win over Yana Kunitsukaya. As far as Macy Chiasson, 4-1 in her last fights, 5 fights as well. A knockout win over Gina Mazzani, a knockout win over Sarah Moras, a decision loss to Lena Landsberg, a decision win against Shiana Young, and then a decision win over Marion Renault. So, Weezy, I know we talked about this fight before. Honestly, forget which way you're leaning, but what do you got in this fight?
Yeah, it's a grappler's delight. Both of these girls are really good at controlling their opponents. Both of these girls spend a massive amount of their fights on the aggregate in control time positions. Aspen Ladd, for and against, we're talking 72% of her fights are taking place in control time positions. And for Chiasson, it's 68%. So, right there, we kind of got to look at, which one of these girls is going to get the advantage in the grappling. Macy, 5 inches taller, 6-inch reach advantage. She's absolutely huge for a bantamweight. But we know that Aspen Ladd isn't tiny, for Christ's sake. She almost killed herself trying to make weight at 135 a couple of different times. That Jermaine Durandamy weigh-in for Aspen Ladd was actually pretty scary. So both of these women, one thing that I would encourage everybody that's watching right now to do is, if you're thinking about betting on this fight, you might want to wait until that weigh-in, because first of all, we've got a decent amount of data on both these ladies, so I don't see the line moving that much. Second of all, they both cut so much weight to make 135. You're not going to want to be on a Ladd ticket if she shows up and she weighs in looking like she did in the Durandamy fight. Same thing for Chiasson. We could have either one of these girls could miss weight. They both cut a ton of weight in order to get to where they're at. The experience advantage is going to Aspen Ladd here, but just slightly. Both of these women are great finishers, really high finish rates for women. 78% finish rate for Aspen Ladd in 9 wins, and a 58% finish rate for Macy Chiasson in 7 wins. Ladd was finished in her only loss to Jermaine Durandamy, and that was after that horrible weigh-in. She just didn't look like she was ready to fight that night. And Macy Chiasson's never been finished. So, you kind of got to go back and watch that Chiasson versus Landsberg fight, because that's really where she got exposed. And we can take a look at the strength of schedule stats and take a look at Macy Chiasson's wins, right? And we got a 0.78 ratio in her wins. Her average opponent that she's beating has a losing record of 2.8 and 3.6. While for Aspen Ladd, she's beating a woman that's got a 3.25 and 2.5 record for a winning record with a ratio of 1.3. The losses for Ladd, coming to Jermaine Durandamy, and the loss for Chiasson is coming to Lena Landsberg. Overall, Ladd is fighting the better competition. So, yeah, I'm seeing a size advantage for Chiasson. I'm seeing a strength of schedule advantage for Ladd. So it comes down to the striking and the grappling. Aspen Ladd, 75% on her takedown accuracy. Macy Chiasson, 65% on her takedown defense. So Aspen Ladd's averaging 2.45 takedowns per 15 minutes, and Macy Chiasson is being taken down 1.22 times. So we could see potentially Ladd getting a takedown or two. And if we look at Chiasson, she's getting takedowns at a 21% rate. 4 of 19 have been successful. And then against, Aspen Ladd has been taken down 2 of the 6 times her opponents have shot on her. So she is allowing 0.82 takedowns per 15 minutes. So just on the metrics there, it looks like Ladd is more efficient at getting takedowns and piling them up, and Chiasson a little bit less efficient. So I could see Ladd maybe having the wrestling efficiency advantage here and being able to get Macy Chiasson down. And then if we look at the striking numbers, they're pretty comparable. But Chiasson's got better ratios and better power. Chiasson getting 0.49 knockdowns per 15 minutes, Ladd 0.41. But the thing is, it's the ratios. It's 4.16 significant strikes a minute landed for Chiasson, only 2.17 absorbed. While for Ladd, she's landing 5.22, but she's absorbing 4.84. So, it looks like Macy's just been a lot better defensively, but she's not fighting as tough a competition as Ladd is. So, I'm leaning Aspen Ladd here. She's fought the better competition. I think she might be better with her wrestling efficiency, might be more likely to get takedowns at a better rate and get that control time. So, but it looks like a close fight, and I'm really high on Macy Chiasson as well. She just hasn't had that step up in competition yet, but she absolutely deserves it. She's fighting very well. She's 5-1 thus far in the UFC. So this is the step up that Macy deserves. We got to see how she handles it. But Aspen Ladd is going to be a real tough test. Which way are you seeing this one?
Yeah, last time it was booked, I did go on the Aspen Ladd side. I did not like the price. We'll talk about it in a little bit. I think it was like minus 200 around there last time they did fight. But yeah, I do like the Ladd side. I think she's going to have a path to victory, like you mentioned with the takedowns. You mentioned the phenomenal 75% accuracy, and when she is on top, she is very dangerous. Great ground and pound there. Macy Chiasson, you did mention the 64% takedown defense, and just see some red flags. Like in the Lena Landsberg fight, I saw a ton of red flags. She was taken down twice by Lena Landsberg, and she was controlled by 7 minutes and 45 seconds in that fight. Over half of the fight, she was controlled. And then in her very last fight against Marion Renault, right, she won the fight. But, Renault, she's like 50 years old, right? And she was taken down 2 times by Renault, and she even let Renault control her for 2 minutes and 15 seconds. If you're getting taken down by Renault, who's, 43, 44, just retired, I kind of think Aspen Ladd's going to have success doing so and getting her down. We do see the line is about the same where it was last time, right? We had minus 205 for Aspen Ladd. She opened up actually minus 250 for some reason. We do have Macy Chiasson open up plus 210. She is currently plus 175. The fight goes to decision is minus 190. The fight doesn't go to decision is plus 150. But I agree with what you said earlier when you're talking about the weigh-ins for Ladd. I think you're going to want to see Ladd weigh in because she literally almost died, it looked like, against her fight against GDR. So, I'm personally leaning on the Ladd side as far as a bet. Don't think I'll get there whatsoever as in terms of, fight goes or fight doesn't go. No strong lean there as well. Any strong leans on the fight goes or fight doesn't go, or any thoughts on the money line?
Yeah, I'd be probably more likely to bet the fight doesn't go because women's fights don't go the distance less than men's. But Ladd's a finisher, and so is Chiasson. So it'll be interesting to see. And like I said, this is a big step up for Macy. So maybe we could see Ladd get it done inside the distance. Aspen Ladd's mean, dude. She's mean. Yeah. She's and Chiasson the same thing. They're both so dangerous. So yeah, what is the fight doesn't go? Is it plus money?
Yeah, it's plus 150.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's not a bad look. I'll have to look into that a little bit more because that's kind of juicy. Maybe a half unit bet or something like that.
Sounds good for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we will move on to the next fight on the card. We do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights left to go through. 4 fights left to go through. My bad. There we go. Misha Cirkunov going against Krzysztof Jotko. And this is a very interesting fight, and I'll kind of talk about why. But we have Cirkunov, who is 34 years old, 6'3", 77-inch reach. Krzysztof Jotko, 32 years old, 6'1", with a 77-inch reach. So Jotko is going to be 2 years younger, have a 2-inch height disadvantage, and they're going to have the same reach. So why I think it's so interesting, Weezy, is because you take a look at Misha Cirkunov, and it seems like, just about every one of his fights are ending inside the distance, right? And then you take a look at Krzysztof Jotko, and he's, not a finisher whatsoever. So kind of a clash of styles, if you will, in terms of, finishes, right? You take a look at Cirkunov, round 1 loss, round 1 win, round 1 loss, round 1 win, round 1 loss, round 1 loss, round 1 win, round 3 win, round 2 win, and then round 1 win. Misha Cirkunov has not went the distance yet in the UFC, whereas Krzysztof Jotko, he goes to decision all the time. So I wish they set Cirkunov up with somebody else, unlike a Jotko, because I would more than often look for a violence bet in a Cirkunov fight. But this is one that's kind of tricky because you take a look at Jotko, and he's winning by decision more often than not. Only one finish win in the UFC, and he's been in the UFC since 2013. He's been finished 3 times in the UFC, so that's that. But just a really weird stash of styles in terms of their finishing rates there. But as far as the last 5 fights, we have Cirkunov is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, a knockout loss against Glover Teixeira, submission win against Patrick Cummings, a knockout loss against Johnny Walker, submission win against Jimmy Crute, and a knockout loss against Ryan Spann. As far as Krzysztof Jotko, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a knockout loss against Brad Tavares, a decision win over Alan Amidovsky, a split decision win over Marc-Andre Barriault, a decision win over Eric Anders, and then a decision loss against Sean Strickland. So both guys 3-2, or Jotko's 3-2 in his last 5 fights, and then Cirkunov is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So what do you think about this fight, Weezy, and where you're leaning?
Yeah, the same exact read that I had it on you is where it's like, wow, you got a great finisher and a great guy at getting finished in Cirkunov, and then you got a guy in Jotko that really just tries to minimize damage and cage control, ground control, makes it really dirty fights. But the thing that I'm seeing here is that sometimes when you have these clash of styles, what really matters is the more mercurial fighter. And then in this case, that's Cirkunov. 100% finish rate in all of his losses, 86% finish rate in his wins. Every single one of his UFC wins has been a finish inside the distance. Every single one of his UFC losses has been a finish inside the distance. So I don't think – so let's say Krzysztof Jotko, he comes in, he says, I'm going to play a safe game plan. Guess what? It doesn't work. You're fighting Misha Cirkunov. You're not going to be able to grapple fuck him because he's better than you on the ground. Actually, way better. Yes. Misha Cirkunov is not somebody you want to be grappling with. He's way stronger than you, and he gets submissions all the time. 53% of his pro wins by submission. That's 8 submission wins out of 15 in his career. And he's knocking people out 5 times. So, 13 of 15 wins inside the distance for Cirkunov. While Jotko only has a 32% finish rate, and that's in 22 wins. So that's only 7 out of 22 wins coming inside the distance for Jotko. So there's that clash of styles that we were talking about. And not only that, look at the average fight time. For Jotko, 11.33 minutes, Cirkunov, 4.24. So it's always that low number that winds up pushing it to make it the kind of fight where you're going to be expecting violence because one of the 2 guys in the cage makes it happen every single time, and that's Cirkunov. I would be leaning the fight doesn't go to decision here. We know how dangerous Cirkunov is in all areas of the game, but it's the takedown defense the takedown accuracy, 11 of 19 for Cirkunov in 10 fights. That's a 58% takedown percentage. He's averaging 4.28 takedowns per 15 minutes and averaging 2.34 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So the guy is just very active when he is on the ground, and he's out-controlling his opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio. While we see Jotko getting takedowns at a 34% clip, out-controlling his opponents 22% to 21%. But Jotko has shown excellent takedown defense, Brady. 54 of 62 takedown attempts against him have been successfully defended. But still, on those 8 takedowns, he's been controlled. See, the control time against for Jotko is 21.5%. So at 180 cage minutes, that would be about 38 minutes of cage time that he's been controlled on 8 takedown attempts. So it looks to me like either that's a ton of cage control time, or if you take Jotko down, you can keep him there. So Cirkunov, the kind of, you can play a Cirkunov ticket always to bet to go the fight doesn't go to decision, because that's just the kind of fighter that he is. But as far as picking who's going to win this fight, it's difficult because Jotko is good defensively. He does have ways to slow down the fight, and he is pretty long at 77-inch reach, and he's interesting because he's a southpaw. So, yeah, this is a hard fight for me to call because it's kind of like Cirkunov reminds me a little bit of Ortega in that at any moment he could either hit you or you could be on the ground and he could lock up a submission and win the fight like that. And he could be losing it up until he wins it. And those first rounds are always nuts in a Cirkunov fight. So I'm kind of leaning Cirkunov here because Jotko doesn't thrive in a chaotic fight. He thrives in the kind of fight where he's slowing it down, putting you at his pace, and Cirkunov just doesn't let you do that. So just on that particular observation, I'm kind of liking Cirkunov here, but I also really do like fight doesn't go to decision.
Yeah, I'm on the Cirkunov side as well, and I'm very tempted at these odds. So listen to this, right? Cirkunov opened up plus 140, is now plus 150. Krzysztof Jotko opened up minus 160, is now minus 175. And this is weird to me because the fight doesn't go to decision, is minus 135, and you'd think that it just doesn't make sense, right? Like Jocko's more often than not finishing anybody, so I don't really get that all that much, but I'd probably just rather play, Cirkunov at that plus 150 price tag, to be honest. Jotko, you mentioned his takedown defense. It is very good, but, it may only take one takedown from Cirkunov. He is so dangerous on the mat. Even on the feet, like Cirkunov's dangerous anywhere, whereas Jotko, he's more, technically sound, and he's better technically, but Cirkunov just more dangerous, right? And we have seen Jotko submitted before. We have seen him taken down. He was submitted back in 2013 was the last time he's been submitted. He was taken down 2 times by David Branch as well. I looked through his record. I just don't really see many guys, many great wrestler grapplers. I mean, David Branch took him down twice. Other than that, like, I don't really see any. I see a bunch of strikers, Alan Amidovsky, Marc-Andre Barriault, Eric Anders, Sean Strickland, Uriah Hall, guys like that. I don't really see many guys that are going to take him down and be as dangerous as a Misha Cirkunov there. So I kind of like the Cirkunov money line at plus 150. As far as the fight doesn't go, I just don't really see any reason for playing that, right? Minus 135. You might as well take Cirkunov at a much, much better price tag because I don't see Jotko finishing. I think if Jotko wins, it's going to be him stuffing takedowns. It's going to be him slowing down the fight, outstriking Cirkunov and for a 3-round decision. So what are your thoughts on the money line? Plus 150 for Cirkunov, minus 175 Jotko, and then also the fight doesn't go decision, minus 135.
Well, I mean, I talked for quite a while about how I think Cirkunov is just far more dangerous. And I mean, I don't think that's even debatable. So getting the far more dangerous fighter at plus 140 is pretty great. And, even if you don't like Cirkunov, you can even hedge off a little bit with the fight goes to decision because that's probably how Jotko beats him. But then again, Cirkunov has never been to decision in a loss. Yeah. So it's, I kind of like that fight doesn't go at minus 135 because it also plays in an exhausted Cirkunov getting subbed or knocked out in the 3rd round by Jotko. Because we've never even seen Cirkunov past a certain point in a fight yet in the UFC. I mean, all of his UFC fights have ended inside the distance, and I think damn near all of them have been 1st round finishes. So for me, that fight doesn't go is at minus 135 is very intriguing, but also plus 140, plus 150 on Misha Cirkunov. You could probably even get plus 175 or plus 200 if you bet inside the distance. And that is even juicier because that's how Cirkunov gets it done probably.
Yeah, Cirkunov in his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 UFC fights, he's actually never been over the 2.5 round mark. Never been over the 2.5 marks. So maybe if the under 2.5 is maybe plus money, that'd be nice. And I do want to mention that when Cirkunov does lose, though, look at who he's getting knocked out by. Ryan Spann, Johnny Walker, Glover Teixeira, and Volkan Oezdemir. I mean, these guys are just so much more dangerous than Jotko. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it's a terrible look for me. I'm very tempted though in that money line, under 2.5. If it is plus money, maybe take a look at that as well. But yeah, in 10 fights, never seen the scorecards. In 10 fights, he's been out of the first round twice.
Yeah.
In 10 fights, he's been to the third round only once. So yeah, definitely looking like a violent spot. I just wish, Jotko was more of a finisher than I'd be, all over it, especially at minus 135.
Yeah, and the thing is that the reason I think that fight doesn't go might be a little bit of a gift is, like, for instance, we were talking about Earl's Medic against Turner. Both of them had 100% finish rates. Turner had been finished 3 out of 5 times. But what took it even that next step further was, hey, look, this guy Medic, he's never been past 51 seconds of the second round.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with Cirkunov in his UFC experience. Like, if you think that this is going to decision, well, Misha's never been there, and Misha's one of the 2 guys in the cage. It's not like he can tag out when he gets tired and bring somebody in that's going to grind it out, because that's not his game. So yeah, that minus 135 might be something I'm getting on pretty quickly here.
Fender is looking, it brought this up. I saw this as well, Fender. Tapology is exactly 50-50 on this fight. Don't think I've ever seen that. Rooting for Misha, but the damage absorbed worries me. Yeah, I saw it as well. Tapology is 50-50. I don't think I've ever seen that. Maybe once, but that's very interesting there. Just shows you that it is a close fight. So move on to the next one. We have what should be a banger as are all of Niko Price's fights and the majority of Alex Oliveira fights. 2 guys that I am big fans of, 2 guys that are always very, very exciting, win or lose. And we're probably going to expect some violence with these 2 as well. We have Oliveira going against Price here. Oliveira is 33 years old, 5'11", with a 76-inch reach. Price is 31 years old, 6 foot with a 76-inch reach. So Price is going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to be 2 years younger as well. Take a look at the last few fights. We have Alex Oliveira, who is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Nicholas Dalby, decision loss. A split decision win over Max Griffin. I personally scored that for Max Griffin, but it was a very, very close fight. Decision win over Peter Sabata. A submission loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov. Can't wait to see him back. And then also a submission loss to Randy Brown. As far as Niko Price, 1-3 and 1 no contest. In his last 5 fights, a knockout loss against Jeff Neal, a knockout win over James Vick, a knockout loss against Vicente Luque. It was a draw, no contest against Donald Cerrone. Not 100% sure why it got turned to a no contest, but it was a draw nonetheless. And then Michel Pereira, decision loss there. So yeah, Weezy, it's a very good fighter. I think this one's going to be very exciting. I don't think Niko Price has ever been in a boring fight. So yeah, like we were saying earlier, like this fight is going to, I think it's going to deliver for sure. Like this is one of the best fights on the card. A big Niko Price fan, really looking forward to see him compete here. And Oliveira is a guy that, he's so hard to trust. Probably one of the most untrustworthy guys in the UFC. Sometimes he shows up, he looks like $100. Sometimes he shows up and he looks awful. So very intriguing fight. I'm curious to see, curious to hear your thoughts on this one, Weezy.
Yeah, great. I can't wait for this one, dude. These guys are both so exciting. If we look at the measurables here, they're almost identical in age, reach, height. If we look at the experience here, Alex Oliveira, 35 fights to Niko Price's 21. Almost twice as much cage time, or more than twice as much cage time for Alex Oliveira as compared to Niko Price. And Oliveira, 19 UFC fights, and Niko Price, 13 UFC fights. So both these guys very experienced, but Alex Oliveira spent about twice as much time in the UFC cage as compared to Niko Price. We've got a 78% finish rate for Alex Oliveira, a 92% finish rate for Niko Price. But check this out. Niko Price, in his 13 UFC fights, all 6 wins coming inside the distance and 4 of the 5 losses coming inside the distance. And then there's 2 no contests. I think one of those finished inside the distance, and the other one was the draw to Donald Cerrone, where I think Niko pissed hot for weed. So I think they made it to a no contest, and I don't know if Cerrone tested positive for anything there either, but I think it was just Price. So if we look at the striking stats for these guys, it definitely twice as much volume from Niko Price here. 2.86 significant strikes landed a minute for Oliveira, 2.23 absorbed, 1.1% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed for Oliveira, showing some pretty good power. For Niko Price, he absorbs more than he lands. He's landing 5.29, absorbing 5.87. Also showing good power is Price, landing a knockdown on about 1% of his significant strikes landed, and 0.75 knockdowns per 15 minutes. So yeah, these guys are both dangerous on the feet for sure, but really Alex kind of looks for that one big shot, while Niko Price will just volume you to death. And the longer the fight goes on, Niko's conditioning takes over, and he can really put it on you. He's pretty close to finishing a Michel Pereira there in the third round. That was a very competitive fight. Pereira won the first 2 rounds, but boy, that third round, Niko Price came out like a house of fire and really put it on him. But Pereira was able to survive. But that's the difference between Pereira and Oliveira. Oliveira has been finished in 70% of his pro losses and in 86% of his UFC losses. That's 7 of 8 losses in the UFC have come inside the distance for Oliveira. This is one of those places I'm loving that third round prop. I love third round props when we got one fighter that's got a great gas tank and is super tough and hard to finish, and then his opponent is the opposite, where, you got a guy like Alex Oliveira is pretty easy to finish, and he's been known to fade late in fights. So Niko Price's volume, he's throwing 12.83 significant strike attempts per minute, and his opponents are throwing 11.41, while Alex Oliveira only throws 5.66 per minute and absorbs or is getting hit at 4.3 sometimes. So we've got a lot more of Oliveira's fights are taking place in control time positions. So I think this is going to be interesting to see whether it stays standing or gets to the ground, because Oliveira on the aggregate, about 60% of his fights are taking place in control time positions, while for Niko Price, it's less than 30%. So almost twice as much of Alex Oliveira's fights on the aggregate take place in control time positions. Now, Price is not a good wrestler. He's attempting a decent amount of takedowns, but he's only gotten 5 in 13 fights, and he's getting takedowns at a 21% rate. While Alex Oliveira he attempts about 4 takedowns per fight, and he's gotten 30 of them. He's getting them at a 37% clip, 2.37 per 15 minutes, and he's out-controlling his opponents at a 35 to 25% clip. Oliveira's takedown defense, not great at only 63%, but he probably doesn't have to worry about being taken down by Niko, because Niko's just not a great wrestler. But he will shoot those takedown attempts in order to get you to defend them and keep you up against the cage. And then he works his striking off of the missed takedown attempts, often can hurt you there, but really he tries to get you to defend that wrestling to try to empty that gas tank so that he can really put it on you in the third round. And I think that's what's going to be the recipe here for Niko Price. He's younger. He's got less tread on the tires. He's got better conditioning. And, when it comes to the grappling, I think that'll be Oliveira's best chance. But I don't see Alex Oliveira lay and pray, using a grappling heavy attack here successfully for 3 rounds. Because even if he's successful with it for 2 rounds, he'll probably empty his own tank and get finished in the third. So, if we look at the strength of schedule stats here, I want to point out that Niko Price is fighting the way better competition, you guys. 8.69 and 4.31 is the average record of the Niko Price opponent, while for Oliveira, it's 6.53 and 4.95. So a 2.02 ratio for Price, 1.32 for Oliveira, and Niko Price consequently is also beating the better competition, as he's beating the more experienced and better win-loss competition with an average record of 7.17 and 4.17, while Oliveira's average win is over a guy with a record of 4.45 and 3.64. Niko Price's loss is also better. So yeah, man, I'm a Niko Price fan. I bet him against Pereira, did not cash that ticket. So, I'm admittedly, I do like this guy, but I see some, I do see some advantages for him here, having fought the tougher competition, being younger, having less tread on the tires, and having better conditioning. How are you seeing this one?
Yeah, I'm 110% with you. I do like Niko Price quite a bit in this fight. Of course, there are some things you got to worry about with Niko. He's taken a ton of damage throughout his career. This guy's a madman. He's wild. He's very hittable, but it's going to come down to who wants it more. And Niko Price is going to absolutely want this more. You take a look at Alex Oliveira. He doesn't look like all that there in his fights. You take a look since his loss to Gunnar Nelson, right? He lost to Gunnar Nelson by submission. After that, he lost to Mike Perry. After that, he lost to Nicholas Dalby. After that, he beat Max Griffin in a very, very close fight that I personally scored for Max Griffin. He looked okay against Peter Zabata, and then he gets submitted by Shavkat Rakhmonov in the first round, and then gets submitted by Randy Brown in the first round as well. He has not looked that great in a while, to be honest. And Niko Price, I mean, he's hungry. You could tell who the hungrier fighter is in this fight. He's so dangerous. He's going to be throwing more volume, and he hits very, very hard. And we have seen Oliveira finished a ton. Both guys have been finished a ton, actually, and both guys are finishers. So I do like Niko Price. We see Niko Price is a slight favorite, opening up at -110, and he's currently -140. Alex Oliveira opening up at -110 as well. He's currently +120. So some money is coming in on Niko Price. The fight doesn't go to decision. Is sitting at -180. The fight goes to decision is currently +140. Yeah, I'm on the Niko Price side here. I'm not sure if I'm looking to do a money line bet on Price, or maybe just take the violence prop as it does cover both sides there. Because Oliveira, he's still very dangerous, right? He hits very hard, has a good submission game as well, and Niko Price does leave himself open to get hit hard, so that does kind of cover both sides. But I'm on the Niko side for sure. Anything stick out to you in terms of the money line? Niko Price -140. I've seen a -128 on FanDuel, -130 on DraftKings, and then also the fight doesn't go to decision at -180.
Yeah, I like the Niko Price side here, and that fight doesn't go to decision feels really safe for me, man. Niko Price, 100% finish rate in his UFC wins. Alex Oliveira, 75% finish rate in his UFC losses. And then Oliveira in his UFC wins, 63% finish rate. And then Niko Price in his UFC losses, 80% finish rate. So, yeah, it looks like anything better than -200 is you're going to have an edge there. And these guys are violent. And like we said, as Oliveira gets older, looks a little less hungry, gets finished a little bit easier. That's one way to look at it. But also, Niko Price I've said it before all the time, he has no concern for his own health. No. That dude will go out there and block punches with his face, but he counts on his chin, he counts on his conditioning, and he counts on his toughness. And it works some of the time. And I mean, when you can really tell that this dude wants it more. And you know what? I mean, I think this might be what makes this fight so interesting is, like, I think these are the two dudes in the UFC who have the most kids out of anybody. Like Alex Oliveira's he's like the Sean Kemp of Brazil, where he's got like 15 kids with all these different women. And then Niko Price, I think he just announced that his wife's pregnant again. I think they're with their 6th child. So both of these dudes have some mouths to feed. But it just looks like Price wants to feed his kids a little bit more at this point. So I'm going to be on the Niko, the hybrid Price side here, hoping that he gives us another spectacularly exciting fight.
I'd be shocked if I'd be shocked if he didn't, man. My voice is gone. Must have been the fights last night. I was yelling at Mark Smith bad last night. That must have been it. I mean, dude, like, Mark Smith, what are you doing? Daukaus knocked him out like 5 times, but lost my voice. It's back. It's back a little bit. Hopefully
I was screaming at him, dude. I had Daukaus as my ass shaving of the night, and he didn't stop the fight. And I was pacing back and forth between the first and second round, going, if Mark Smith fucks me out of an ass shaving of the night pick, I'm gonna kill him. And then he wouldn't stop it. Like, he knocked him out again, and he didn't jump in for a minute. It's like, what do you just stop? Like, PayPal just said it. Stop the fight.
Exactly.
I was screaming at the television.
It was crazy, man. But yeah, it's been crazy lately. First Herb Dean with the Montel Jackson fight. Now Mark. They want these guys to die in there. What are they looking for, man? Anyway, enough of that. Getting to the next fight here. A very intriguing fight. We have Kevin Holland going against Kyle Daukaus. It seems like everybody's very low on Kevin Holland after a recent skid as of late. Kevin Holland, though, he is 28 years old, 6'3", 81-inch reach. Kyle Daukaus is 28 years old himself, 6'3" himself, and then a 76-inch reach. So Kevin Holland's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. Take a look at the last few fights. Kyle Daukaus, 3-2 in his last 5 fights to make his UFC debut against Brendan Allen. I thought he made a pretty good account for himself there. Did lose a decision there, though. A decision win over Dustin Stoltzfus, and then a decision loss to Phil Hawes. As far as Kevin Holland, split decision win over Darren Stewart, a submission win over Charlie Ontiveros, a knockout win over Jacare Souza, a decision loss to Derek Brunson, and a decision loss to Marvin Vettori. Yeah, what I notice is a huge discrepancy in the level of competition. Have Holland coming off of losses to Marvin Vettori and Derek Brunson, where he looked awful. He definitely exploited his takedown defense, and Kyle Daukaus is a very solid grappler. Interesting fight. Curious to hear your take on this one. I feel like it's another one of those fights where I think one side's going to be very, confident in one side, and then one side's going to be very confident in the other side. What are you looking at here, Weezy?
Yeah, that really feels like that's going to be the case with this fight because, there's paths to victory for each fighter. Kevin Holland's going to want to keep it standing. Kyle Daukaus is going to want to get it to the ground. Who wins? Who winds up, achieving their game plan in this fight? Let's just talk about takedown defense right away because it's the most glaring thing that we need to talk about here. Because if you're on the Holland side, you're saying that this guy's going to stop Kyle Daukaus' takedowns, keep it on the feet, and knock Daukaus out. And if you're on the Daukaus side, you're saying, man, the Philly boy is going to get Kevin to the ground, grind him out, and submit him with a Darce choke. So Kevin Holland, not good on the takedown defense, Brady. We got a problem here. 47.83% takedown defense. But, a lot of that is against Blonde Brunson, and Blonde Brunson is about as good as it gets when it comes to the middleweight division in wrestling. So, maybe one of the interesting things that we should do here is take a look at the advanced stats, and let's look at my man's takedown defense if we throw out that fight. So, this might take a second, guys. Please just,
this is important stuff here, Weezy.
This is important stuff, my man. So if we're taking out that Brunson fight here for, I got to go down one more. All right. So let's see now. Against him, Brunson got 11 of 17 takedowns. My God. But if we take those 11 of 17 out, he's still been taken down 25 times out of 52. So even 25 out of 52 puts his takedown defense at just a little bit better than 50%.
Yeah.
And so we go back before that. The fight before, Vettori takes him down 6 out of 12 attempts. The fight before that, 2 out of 3 attempts. The fight before that, 2 fights before that, 3 out of 8 attempts. And then 0 for 2, but then it's 2 for 3, 2 for 4, 6 for 11, 3 for 7, and 1 for 2. This guy's never been able to stop takedowns. It's never happened. Everybody's taken him down at least half the time that they're shooting for takedowns. So this is a problem. And then not only that, it's 2,820 seconds of control time given up. So it just looks like every second that Kevin Holland is on the feet, he's incredibly dangerous and is one shot away from ending the fight. And even Kyle Daukaus in the past, one of the things that just absolutely infuriated me about watching Kyle Daukaus fights is Kyle Daukaus is more well-rounded than even Kyle Daukaus realizes. This guy will have success with his hands. His punches are straight. They come right down the pipe, and some of them land. But here's what Kyle Daukaus does. If he ever lands a shot where he gets you in trouble, he will never try to finish a fight with his strikes. He will shoot in for a takedown. It's so clear to me that Kyle Daukaus is not comfortable on the feet, even though he's better than he thinks he is there. But that particular weakness in Kyle's game is going to be a strength in this fight because Brady, he's got to get this to the ground. And he's just got to sell out. Because if at least he sells out, at least he's racking up control time against the cage. Maybe he can get in the clinch and he can wear off some minutes there because, dude, every second that this fight stays standing, Kyle is going to be at a huge deficiency here. If we look at the strength of schedule, Kyle Daukaus has been fighting some really good guys, but not experienced. He's got a 3.33 win-to-loss ratio of his opponents. very high, but only 3.25 fights. So it's clear that Kevin Holland is fighting the way more experienced, better competition here. Kevin Holland is going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here. Kevin Holland has got twice as many pro fights. Kevin Holland is a way better striker, but he's got this giant deficiency in his takedown defense and his get-up game. He likes to play jitsu from his back, and he's not gonna out jits Kyle Daukaus on the ground here. So this is one of those matchups, and you led off by saying it, Brady. People are going to be on either side, and they're going to be passionate about the side that they're on, but somebody's going to be wrong. Who's going to be wrong?
Yeah, I don't know. This is a very, very tricky fight because you take a look at Holland, no takedown defense. You take a look at Daukaus. What is Daukaus going to try to do? Take him down, right? But Holland is not like a bum grappler. He may have a bum takedown defense, but he's not a bum grappler. He's a black belt in BJJ. And you go back to the Meerschaert fight where he was grappling with Meerschaert for pretty much the whole fight, and he was having success in grappling with somebody as dangerous as a Meerschaert. He's a black belt in BJJ, like I mentioned. I think Kyle Daukaus is a black belt as well. But yeah, Holland's going to want to keep this on the feet, and when he does, it's going to be a significant advantage. You take a look at Kyle Daukaus; he has a 39% striking defense. That is horrible. That is absolutely horrible. I thought Kyle Daukaus looked really bad in that Phil Hawes fight as well. He made Phil Hawes look like he had cardio. And just Holland's fought the much better competition. Yes, he's looked horrible, but he's looking horrible against Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori took him down 11 times. No shame in that. Holland actually outlanded Vettori in terms of significant strikes, 37-24. Derek Brunson took him down 6 times. No shame in that. Is Kyle Daukaus, does he have the caliber wrestling as a Brunson and as a Vettori? Absolutely not. Is he, the same fighter as high as the level of a fighter as those two? Absolutely not. And it's just crazy to go back and take a look at Kevin Holland, seeing this guy was a favorite against Derek Brunson a couple fights ago, and he was a bigger favorite. He was a bigger favorite against Derek Brunson than he was now against Kyle Daukaus. That makes absolutely no sense to me. I think it could very well be a buy low spot for Holland, but the takedown defense is concerning. His get-up game is concerning, and if Daukaus can take him down, which he probably will, is he going to get stuck on his back like he was against Brunson and Vettori? But at the same time, that was Brunson and Vettori, which Kyle Daukaus is not. Any of those guys are anywhere near the caliber of those guys. So we do take a look at the line here. We have Kevin Holland opening up -110. And then he's now -155, and then Daukaus opening up plus or -110. He's now +135. So some money is coming in on the Holland side. We see the fight goes to decision is -120. The fight doesn't go to decision is -120. It's a tricky fight. I think it's a good buy low spot for Holland, but I just don't know if I can trust the guy. And this is a matchup that really makes no sense to me. You'd think, right? Like if the UFC wants to get Holland back on track, are they going to give him a wrestler grappler like a Kyle Daukaus, or would they give him a maybe a striker, maybe someone that's not going to take him down? So if he does lose this, he's going to be on a 3-fight losing streak. So we'll see what happens. It's a tough fight to call. It's a very tricky fight. I am leaning on the Holland side. Don't know if I'll get there from a bet, but the takedown defense is a glaring hole enough for me to probably more than likely pass on this. Weezy, any thoughts on the fight doesn't go where fight goes, and any thoughts on the money lines between the two?
Well, one thing I just wanted to bring up is that this is a 3-round fight, and it makes a big difference because when we saw Holland have the most success in the 5-round fights against Vettori and against the other one, he wound up having success late because a wrestling heavy game plan is exhausting, and he wound up, his opponents got more tired than he did because they were shooting takedowns constantly. So, the fact that this is a 3-round fight, maybe Kyle Daukaus could actually have enough success with the grappling. But the one thing that I wanted to bring up is that Daukaus is only getting takedowns at a 29.17% clip. So he's a good grappler, but he's not particularly great at getting the fight to the ground. So, I am leaning Holland here, but, this will be a great fight for a balls deep breakdown. And Pain Fight Predictions asked for a Gordon Solecki one, which I think would also be excellent. And also Oliveira Price, would be a fun one too, man. But dude, this is such a great fight. But yeah, I do have to lean Holland here because he's just so much more dangerous on the feet. And Daukaus not a good enough, accurate enough, efficient enough wrestler for me to believe that he can control it for long enough that he'll stay out of danger and avoid that one big shot from Holland that can end the fight.
Yep, for sure. Agree with you there. And yeah, we do have 110 of you hanging out. If you all can hit the like button, that'd be much appreciated. We do have one more fight to cover, then we'll head out of here. So yeah, the main event. This should be another violent fight. We've talked a lot about violence tonight, and I think this may just be the most violent fight on the night. We have Thiago Santos going against Johnny Walker. Santos, he is 37 years old, 6'2" with a 76-inch reach, going against Johnny Walker, 29 years old, 6'6" with an 82-inch reach. And Walker is going to be younger. He's going to have the height advantage, and he's going to have the reach advantage, 4 inches of height, and then also 6 inches of reach. As far as the last few fights, we do see that Santos is on a skid here, 2-3 in his last 5 fights on a 3-fight losing streak, a knockout win over Jimmy Manuwa, a knockout win over Jan Blachowicz, a split decision loss to John Jones, a submission loss to Glover Teixeira, and then a decision loss to Alexander Rakic. As far as Johnny Walker, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a knockout win over Justin Ledet, a knockout win over Misha Cirkunov, a knockout loss to Corey Anderson, a decision loss against Nikita Krylov, and then a knockout win over Ryan Spann. Yeah, great fight, great main event. I expect violence and nothing less. Weezy, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, it's kind of surprising when you see somebody with a sledgehammer tattoo on their chest and then you find out that they're actually violent. But that's the case with Thiago Santos. The guy's mean. And Johnny Walker just knocks people out all the time, dude. 83% knockout rate in his career, and 4 out of his 5 wins in the UFC have come by way of knockout inside the distance. So let's talk about that violence bet right off the bat, because that's what jumps off the page, Brady. We got a 76% finish rate for Thiago Santos overall. So that is 16 out of 21 wins coming inside the distance, and 17 out of 18 wins coming inside the distance for Johnny Walker. So 17 plus 16, 33 out of 39 fights coming by way of stoppage for the inside the wins. So that's about 85% right there, Brady. And then on the losses, 8 losses for Santos, 2 for Walker. 5 losses for Walker, 9 for Santos. 6 of the Santos losses coming inside the distance, 4 of the 5 for Walker coming inside the distance. So that would be 10 out of 14. So over a 70% on the loss side. So yeah, anything better than minus 225 or so on the violence here. Then you add to the fact that this is a 5-round fight. And Johnny Walker is not going 5 rounds, I don't think, with anybody, dude. And even Santos, both of these guys hit so hard. Let's talk about the power numbers, dude, because this is crazy. 1.78% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed for Santos, 1.81 for Walker. So both these guys are averaging 1.2 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And then Johnny Walker's being knocked down on 2.27% of the significant strikes landed against him, and Santos is being knocked down on 0.75% of the significant strikes landed against him. So both of these guys have positive striking differentials. Thiago Santos's ratio is almost 2-to-1 landing to absorbing, and it doesn't really. I don't anticipate either of these guys trying to shoot takedowns. Johnny Walker has shot 1 takedown in 7 fights, and Thiago Santos has shot 21 in 21 fights. So he's only shooting 1 takedown attempt per fight, and he's only gotten 8 in 21 fights. He's averaging 0.74 takedowns per 15 minutes. So it looks like both of these guys' opponents, Thiago Santos has been out-controlled by 6% on the ground and on the cage, and Johnny Walker has been out-controlled by about 26%. So it looks like when guys want to frustrate Santos and Walker, they go to the wrestling, they go to the grappling, they try to get it out of the center of the cage. But it looks like both of these guys are most comfortable in the center of the cage at striking distance, doing what they do best, hurting people, knocking people out. And that's exactly what I see happening here. Thiago Santos is 37 years old. There's some tread on the tires. He's got a baby on the way with Yana Kuditskaya. I don't know exactly where his head is at, but I don't think he's going to want to fight 5 rounds against Johnny Walker. I think somebody's going to get put out here early. Both of these guys have been knocked out. Both of these guys carry a ton of power, and neither of one of these guys has the grappling heavy or wrestling heavy game plan that we would think would grind this out for a long period of time. So yeah, fight doesn't go to decision is the first thing that absolutely jumps off the page between these two competitors in a 5-round fight. But as far as picking a side, I'm looking at the strength of schedule numbers here. It's better for Santos. The wins are better. The losses are better, and the overall is better, obviously. We look at those last 3 losses to the greatest of all time in John Jones, the greatest fuck-up of all time. We got the guy who's going to be challenging for the title next in Glover Teixeira, and then the guy who might be right behind him for the next title defense, and that's Alexander Rakic. So, Santos is a step down for him, but he's getting older. He's getting towards the end of his career, coming off a couple of blown knees, I believe, that he had in the Jones fight. So, how much is left in the tank for Santos? I don't know. Picking the side is hard here, but picking the fight doesn't go to decision is pretty fucking easy, Brady. And I think that's probably the way, if we're going to gamble on this, let's take the easy bet. Let's take the bookies' money on the easiest bet and just bet fight doesn't go to decision here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's straightforward, right? Like, just seeing this fight going 5, like, how does this fight go 5 rounds? I mean, just Johnny Walker in general, when he's finishing fighters, it's in the first round more than likely. And if he does get extended, I could see him slowing down and maybe getting finished himself by Santos. So yeah, just to see this going 5 rounds is crazy. Even like to see this going 3 rounds to me would even be crazy as well. And we're getting a 5-round fight. We're getting 2 extra rounds. So we'll take a look at what that fight doesn't go to decision line is. But oh my goodness,
they're on to us, dude. They're on to us.
So it's open on 2 books here. So on 5 dimes, it's sitting at -445, and then on FanDuel, it is sitting at -350.
Yeah, that's just too wide. But sometimes they get it right, but that's where the Medic Turner fight doesn't go to decision should have been -350. But
yeah.
that's why we took their money last week. Now they got this one right. That's where it should be. But even then, that's a parlay piece. Can you imagine these guys like leaning on each other in the 5th round, just completely exhausted, still standing up? I don't see that happening. If it does happen, this could be one of the best fights in the history of the UFC. If these 2 bangers go 5 rounds on the feet, just clocking each other, there's no way this goes to decision, dude. No way. It's like Smith-Spann.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are some other props that do stick out to me on FanDuel Sportsbook. They have fight won't start round 2, +215. Fight won't start round 3, -102. Fight won't start round 4, -168. I don't hate that. Yeah. And then fight won't start round 5 is -260.
Yeah, those are a lot more interesting. I mean, the fight doesn't start round 5 at -260, way better than -350. And way better than -445, right, on 5 dimes. Oh, 5 dimes is like, fuck this. You guys could take the fucking under. We're not getting shaved again this week, man. So they're pretty smart. They, it's like the books that just kind of open Valentina. They're like, you know what? We're just going to open her at -1400. You're not getting out. You're not getting off on us at 10-1. So yeah, this is. Who are you leaning, dude? I mean, Santos is -175 here. Man, that's a lot of plus money on Johnny Walker. He's way younger. He's got like a 7-inch reach advantage. He's got a ton of power in his own right. And the kryptonite to his game is something that Thiago doesn't do particularly well. I don't know. What are you thinking, dude?
I just don't feel comfortable laying -170 on Santos. I'll say that. But as far as a pick, though, I'll pick him because I think he has more ways to win. I think Johnny Walker, if he wins, it's probably in the first round, probably in the first round and a half. Whereas Santos, if he wins, it could be in the first round. But if the fight gets extended, I do think that favors him more. We have seen him in a 5th round with, like you said, the GOAT, John Jones. Whereas we typically don't see Johnny Walker out of that first round. And when he does get out of that first round, he does seem to lose more often than not. So, for me, as far as a pick, I'll go Santos, but I'm more interested in some violence here one way or another. I'm going to be looking at those props like the fight doesn't start round 5. Fight doesn't start round 4 even, are sticking out to me. But yeah, -455. Now that's And that's just getting crazy, right? Minus 445 on 5 dimes, but I don't have access to that book. Waiting to see what the other books get out, but I think it could potentially be a parlay piece. Fight doesn't go, maybe something I hit pretty hard depending on the line and what other books do get out. But yeah, I see this fight finishing. As far as a pick, I will go the Santos side, but don't feel overly confident, especially seeing him at minus 170, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. That is pretty juiced, but if you're looking for parlay pieces, that's about as good of a parlay piece as you're going to find. Because I mean, like I say, dude, if that thing goes all 5 rounds, I'm going to be slack jawed. So yeah, that's a good parlay piece there. It's a good way to end up the show, man.
Yeah, I mean, if Keith Peterson is reffing, then I could see it going to a decision. Smelling like alcohol and cigarettes, like he was last night. But other than that, I think it does finish.
Yeah, it has to, doesn't it? It has to.
Yes, for sure. But yeah, we did it, man. That was fun. We talked about a bunch of fun fights. It wasn't 266, but man, I think we're going to see some violence. We're back in the smaller cage. I think we're going to get some finishes, and I'm looking forward to it for sure. I do have no bets yet. I'm going to continue to look into the card. I'm going to be looking for violence this week. I can already tell I'm a violence hunter if you guys have not noticed yet, but yeah, really looking forward to it there. Weezy, let them know where they can find you and what you have going on throughout the week. What you got?
Check me out on Twitter at MMA Weezy, and then you can check out my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. I do balls deep breakdowns of usually 2 to 3 fights every week, and I do a full card breakdown every Tuesday night after the Contender Series is over, called Just the Tip. And that's where I'm going to give you my ass shaving of the week this week. Last week's ass shaving of the week came through with flying colors, Mr. Chris Daukaus. And you can also find me right here every Sunday night on Pub Sports Radio for Stat Diggers, and then every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Time with my man Brady, with Luke, and with AJ for the DraftKings DFS MMA show. So looking forward to going on vacation this week, Brady. After I get all my content done by Wednesday, I'm going to go to Florida for a week, get out there in the sun and relax a little bit, and looking forward to that.
For sure, man. I also saw that Clint announced that you will be on the Die Hard podcast tomorrow. So really looking forward to that. That's going to be a show that I'm definitely looking forward to, definitely going to be tuning into. So go check out Clint tomorrow on the Die Hard podcast. You'll see Weezy on there as well. Should be a good one.
Thanks, Brady, for saying that. Sorry, man. I can't believe I even forgot that. But yeah, that's a huge honor for me to be. It's my first appearance there on the Die Hard, and I can't wait to do that tomorrow with Clint. That's going to be fantastic. So that's 3 nights in a row on Pub Sports Radio for your Uncle Weezy.
There you go. I'm excited for that show, man. I'm excited to see you on there and see how it goes. You and Clint together should be a fun time for sure. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown prediction video will probably be out either Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm going to delay it a couple days. Going to enjoy Vegas the last 2 days I'll be here, but I'll get that out soon. Me and Uncle Weezy will be doing a main event deep dive probably Tuesday, maybe Tuesday night as well. So look forward to that. Live streams on Pub Sports, of course. Sunday, Pub Sports Radio, I'm doing Stat Diggers, and then Tuesday, a DraftKings show with Uncle Weezy, and then on my channel, DFS by the Numbers on YouTube, I'm going live 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time after the weigh-ins, and then also 1 hour prior to the prelims for Best Bet with me, Weezy, Narco Cop, and then we're trying to find another guest to come on weekly. So yeah, lots of stuff going on. Thank you guys. Hit the like on your way out. Thank you so much for hanging out on a Sunday. We'll talk to you very soon, and good luck for UFC Vegas 38. Let's